find out our first grand finalist. We, of course, as usual, start on domination. And with Citadel Gaming versus Virtus Pro, we were talking earlier about this, and you got some pretty interesting statistics about Citadel's domination in particular.
Well, domination is just really the map that Citadel took Virtus Pro to the most in best of fives because they felt that they had the advantage in the more scrappy engagements. But it's more for all of the maps, I think, Tetcher, for the draft. Out of the 23 maps that we've seen Citadel play in Stage 2, they have banned out Mantis. They haven't banned it out first here, however, but I think it's a case of like knowing that Virtus Pro don't put too much stock on the Mantis, at least first protecting it. That was their gamble. It hasn't paid off. It's only once ever that Citadel Gaming have let the Mantis slip through, but they did win that map, and it was on domination. It might have even been on Celestial Husk as well.
This is also a pretty big slide when it comes to Jeff, already not being touched by both teams, but there is a chance for them to come in. With both of these teams putting so much of a focus onto Venom, letting Jeff through this far is already quite the risk. That Symbiotic Shenanigans was a big impact at mid-season and has been pretty dominant throughout the majority of Stage 2.
So now you have a potential of a one-sided Adam, a one-sided Ultron. Is there something else that you want to protect? They've gone for the first ban on the Ultron, so they want to feel that they have that advantage over them. And because it synergizes so well with other flying characters, Human Torch, Phoenix even to an extent, but most certainly the Star-Lord on a map like this that we saw a lot of teams sort of last protect right at the end, really does seem to synergize well, but it's not as if Mantis doesn't have some good synergies herself. Most certainly with characters like Loki, like Moxie was mentioning earlier, you've got the team up, but also just being able to copy ultimates that frequently. It's good. I imagine this is going to be an Adam ban for Virtus Pro. You don't really want to let that slide. But no, actually, they're going for LeBron. Yes. They're taking the ball out of his hands. They're stopping Polly playing the cap.
The chat will be so pleased. The amount of times, obviously these teams, they are so locked in. They know what empowers what, they know what threats are and what might have higher priorities. But so much of yesterday when I was watching back the games in the chat was, why do they keep letting Polly on cap? Virtus Pro, they have decided that, you know what, the threat level has risen enough that it's worth banning out. We also see the Emma Frost banned out from Virtus Pro, hard targeting the Vanguards today.
I mean, if there's a chance to try out something different, which is with these drafts, it's typically going for a lot of strategist bans to make sure that you just don't have the healing output or the bodies to go triple strategist. Now is a chance to try something a little bit different. And because there's only so many Vanguards to work for, and you know that that front line of Enzo and Polly could be so annoying, making sure that you take away the dive characters that could just be involved and be really scary. It's an interesting approach to the draft for Virtus Pro, and it's a perfect opportunity to do it.
Citadel Gaming, they choose not to ban out the Venom in the same way that Virtus Pro did, meaning that if Virtus Pro want to utilize that Jeff, they can go in with Symbiotic Shenanigans, and we do see both of those currently being hovered, might be locked in and make it out of the spawn, but that is pretty huge here. Citadel, they look like they're going to be locking in that Ultron for a little bit of aerial domination, of course, to try and target down the Shark, and of course a little bit harder to hit when it comes to the characters like the Venom, but there's some interesting hovers coming in from Citadel right now.
It has to be. You've had 3 of the Vanguards taken away from you. Granted, you've also made sure that Emma isn't available on either side, but a one-sided Mantis, Venom, and Cap in favor of Virtus Pro, and a one-sided Ultron, Adam Warlock, and Invisible Woman, with Jeff being protected at the same time too. So I guess that's the problem for Citadel, right? Is that you have a lot of strategists, but you're only going to run 2 at most. So is Ultron, Adam, Invisible Woman going to be good? You still have Luna available. Where do you put in the Jeff? Really does feel like Virtus Pro have gone, we just want to make sure that your front line sucks. We don't care about what strategists you want to run.
And honestly, there's a couple teams where that can work against. The question is, are they one of them? When you've got this level of play, Polly is currently hovering on the Angela, and we see Enzo looking at Doctor Strange. They're going to go for some hyper aggression early on, but Virtus Pro, they are bringing out Doctor Strange and the Venom themselves. So both teams may be looking for a portal. It's going to be a high ground portal for Virtus Pro, and Citadel with that Angela, they're going to go in, bring out the Angela and the magic, diving straight through to try and catch someone, maybe use environmental. They are able to get the pick onto Saipe, but they are dropped down to the earth and taken out by the characters of Icor, and it's gonna be Citadel who set the pace for this early game.
I mean, that's a great dive, and there's follow-up too. It's the fact that you have Ken just following up on everything that Angela is doing. Alex is also moving over towards the Ultron, so this is still just your kind of run-of-the-mill 2-2-2 setup. It's just that you've got Ultron and Jeff as those backline supports. It seems to be really good on domination, maybe even specifically good on this map because of how open, how much high ground you could just sit on, separate, and dive on. But Tanuki is also on the magic in this dive too. It means that Citadel Gaming are going to take the point first, and Nevix over onto the thing to try to stop this dive from happening, or at least be immovable.
They have chosen hyper aggression. Citadel bringing out that magic with that Doctor Strange as well. So not only do they have that Angela dive, the Psylocke for the follow-up DPS, they also have Tanuki going in with that magic, with the double strategist, with, again, Citadel's style that them and Na'Vi like to play, with a little bit less healing output, a little bit more aggression, and the Chains of Sidorak from the Order of the Magic and Chaos combo from Enzo and Tanuki with that Doctor Strange magic. They have so much pressure on the backline, it's forced Virtus Pro to adjust, bring out the thing to try and punish the dive.
It's also both teams having access to Luna and not actually playing them in this fight, especially with the triple strategist Virtus Pro. They're going for the Cloak and Dagger instead. To move over to Polly, it was the Captain America's shield last time that was dominating. Now it's the spear of Angela. He's not able to move around this thing much. He's pretty much glued to the ground, but he's still taking a good chunk of damage, farming up these ultimates for Citadel Gaming as they win another engagement.
What a performance by Citadel so far. The hyper-aggression. Saipa moved off the Luna onto the Cloak and Dagger to try and sustain them through this with that Dagger Storm for a little bit of extra healing on the actual point. But right now, they're just getting targeted. With even that triple strategist healing, it's not mattering because they're getting isolated. Coming on down from above, not using the ultimate yet. Galactic Legend from Sparker is going to be enough to get Alex. Polly falls as well. Angela a little bit too far forward. And finally, we're starting to see Virtus Pro creeping forward inch by inch. It's Jeff looking for targets on the backline. A little bit of extra healing for the team. Enzo falls, and one by one, Virtus Pro creep on forward, and they are taking down Citadel, flipping on 97.
Tanuki's ultimate on the magic, not finding all too much. It is 97% now. Citadel Gaming going to be happy with what they wanted to play around. Melee is even going to change up some of the characters to go over onto the Jean Grey. There's Virtus Pro not only taking the point for the first time, but doing it relatively cheaply. It was that clobbering time that was used from Nevix, the Galactic Legend, and then it's Jeff, but that was traded either side. You still have the Freedom Charge and an Eternal Bond, and not too much to interrupt them. Maybe the Eye of Agamotto can catch, but you're sort of looking at where Saipe is and Dredro, making sure that those ultimates do not come out.
The catch finds the fish. Eye of Agamotto in the cave, but the Dagger Storm healing is good. Enzo's still going to find the pickup onto Saipa. The Soul Resurgence from Dredro, keeping the team topped up. Freedom Charge for the bonus health because everyone on Virtus Pro is looking very low. The bonus health is not enough for Dredro, who will get taken down, and Citadel are once again taking control. Virtus Pro might be forced to go back to Strange, but the question is the portal back yet?
It should be, I think, with the time, especially when this has been dealt with a little bit more. But Polly is finding so much value. He's had his ultimate for quite some time. That's the only thing. He's getting so much cleave damage in. He's actually going to be able to take the club potentially off the map. No, it requires them to sort of teleport into safety. The portal plays more of an attempt to throw them off, but the portal is just askew. It doesn't stop Nevix.
Not going to be dropping them off. They don't get the environmental, but that was a brave play by Enzo. Polly respawning. Will have to rush back. That's not going to be a reinforced portal. This is just a brawl portal. Enzo Inferno taking out Dredro, and we are starting to see Citadel taking control. Into the backline goes Jeff to try and set something up. Fi and Ken both went for it at the same time to try and take someone off the map. Sparker's chased down. Ken gets Finzi, has to go off at the same time, and that gives Citadel enough time to hold the point.
I didn't really think that Polly Angela is what I wanted to be seeing, but it seems to have hit pretty well. And again, the ultimate was held in hand. It might be good to start off the fight in the second point. There's not going to be any portal plays available for either because we saw Enzo try to counter Nevix coming back into this engagement. But as a reminder, Virtus Pro have taken out Venom, Captain America. The vanguards that they are running are not available to Citadel Gaming in the slightest. And then there's no Emma Frost, so it really is dive central for both teams. It's just a Citadel Gaming with the Doctor Strange and then with the Angela making it work with their 2-2-2 setup.
They really are. They've just chosen, if our Vanguard's lineup's going to be a little bit weaker, it's not really going to be fixable by a strategist lineup that just out-heals it, because healing takes time sometimes, especially with characters like the Jeff and the Ultron, for example. So in this case, the priority isn't on keeping those Vanguards alive, because they were a lot of them bad out. The priority is, we don't have to heal if the enemy team is gone.
Oh, Nemo. That's the change of Virtus Pro want to make, trying to set up and go for something that's very anti-dive. All he needs to be careful. You've got plenty of hallways to fly through, but plenty of positions that you can just get CC'd into oblivion, and it's going to be hard for Citadel to get line of sight to help you out in those fights.
Galactic Legend dropped early at the start here from Sparker. Tanuki getting Cypher on the backline though, but Sparker's not finding anything. In fact, dropped low. It's a triple for Citadel. Sparker falls. That is an ult for nothing. Citadel burn only the Dark Charm for that and keep control, taking the first point, and they still have Heaven's Retribution. They still have Eye of Okamoto.
Haven't really had any need, even sitting on the Rage of Ultron, which Alex, as soon as a fight starts to break out, is going to try and use it to keep Virtus Pro forced back. Means that it's going to be hard for Citadel Gaming to go and be aggressive, but scaling up towards the objective with this composition for Virtus Pro, it's just going to take a lot longer than hypermobility characters.
Taking control of the low ground, Dridro with the Eternal Bomb to try and set up an opening for Virtus Pro, but as crowd control is proving very difficult for them to work around. Nemix has dropped low, but will tank through it and now has that Monster Hulk forward. Enzo, play forward, Heaven's Retribution will come in to the backline, gets frozen out though, and Polly is absolutely countered. Enzo is now alone in the tanking lineup. It's Jeff into the backline to try and create a little bit of space, looking for that Luna to take them off the map. Finds nothing except their own teammate.
Yeah, managed to just get out. It was almost felt that Virtus Pro were using it a little bit as bait to try and separate an easy target for Ken to try and eat up. Can't quite connect onto them, but now it's Finzi doing the damage as to Captain America's. Polly's not going to have it available, and Virtus Pro are throwing a lot at this fight. It looks like they should eventually be winning it, but not until Citadel Gaming reach about 2/3 of the progression on this point.
They were winning the fight, but it was taking too long. They had to burn more resources just to stop Citadel from getting close to the 70s. As such, they now have very few tools left to counteract Citadel, but Citadel, they did the same thing. They burned most of their cooldowns on the defense, so now we are just going into neutral fights. Portal aggressively in right off the bat, looking for the cloak and dagger once again. Dridro getting bullied into the axis of Icon to try and take him down. Polly with the hyper aggression onto the backline, but it's Sparker now back on the Psylocke, who is beginning to clean up with the Psychic Assassin.
Now, stunned out on both sides, but Virtus Pro still winning out on this engagement. Sparker's looming in the background. He's on the Psylocke, which was one of the main win conditions for them to qualify up to this upper bracket final in the first place, especially on Celestial Husk against Chopped. He's just waiting for a chance to pull out that Dance of the Butterflies. Had it for quite some time, but they don't want to expend too much to Virtus Pro. They still have to hold on to the point a good amount of time, and Citadel Gaming trying to find a counterattack with all of the ultimates that they have, because they've got 4 now.
Melio started on the Adam for a little bit, got picked off, decides against building up that charge, and has moved over to the Psylocke to try and contest Sparker. Fincy with the Freedom Charge. Eye of Agamotto going to try and slow him down. Only gets one stun, but the counter. Alex keeping the team topped up. Sonic and contested, allowing Ken to go for the It's Jeff to try and snipe someone off the point as they put their attention onto Fincy. With Fire already going down the Eternal Bond and the Dance of the Butterfly. Have to be burned to try and get a flip, to try and get a swap, with the damage output onto Enzo. It's just short. They tank on through, allowing the retreat from Citadel so they can regroup and try and recontest on that low ground. Trying to get onto Nevix. The lockdown is good. Sparker is down. Nevix has to Monster Hulk just to survive as once again Polly is in the backline.
But Fate of Both Worlds has been used from Saipei. You've got Tanuki that was holding on with the Galactic Legend, ready for this moment as soon as these strategist ultimates go down. But then you have the Dance of the Butterflies that's going to follow up straight afterwards. Melio's been able to grab it, and he's able to actually catch free just in the backline. Everybody from Virtus Pro grouping up after that Fate of Both Worlds, get diced apart from Melio, their old enemy, I suppose, on the side of Citadel.
And that is going to be a clean-up. Citadel swap it on 99. Virtus Pro, they need one more good reinforcement fight. They're sticking with the Hulk because it is actually contesting Enzo very effectively on that Doctor Strange, but this is with without a Namor. They're just sticking with the extra damage and utilizing the shielding to great effect. Dridro is getting hard targeted on Virtus Pro. Citadel are getting Enzo hard targeted, but both teams are contesting. The portal has come back in. Fincy for what could be the last fight of this first round. If Citadel are able to take control, and with the Galactic Legend, Fi is able to snipe Melee on the backline with the range of Ultron to try and contest. Ken is able to hose down Fi. Alex gets Cypher, and Virtus Pro are melted off the point.
They managed to clear it all up. It was more that Galactic Legend, the icing on the cake from Tanuki. They're able to sort of take this domination game mode cleanly. Virtus Pro always seems to be the kind of map that they lose against Berber Patspim in these BO5 series. So the fact that it's starting off this way isn't too surprising. What is more surprising is just some of the comps and ideas the Citadel gaming brought out. Most certainly Polly, another MVP, not on the Captain America this time, but on a different Vanguard altogether.
Nicely done, bringing out the Angela. We know how they said it yesterday. If you let Polly play something, they will be the best in the world at it, and they're continuing to make a name for themselves here. Very aggressive Angela, getting taken down a pretty equal amount of times to the rest of their team, keeping up in damage, but it's the positioning where we started to see the value. While they were going in very aggressively with those Axis of Icor to really get the contestation once they go in for Divine Judgment, they were being able to isolate people with the Assassin's Charge in the early fights is where we started to see Citadel start the momentum, and that gave them those early advantages.
I think that final fight really that came in, whatever it was that forced Saipei to use the Fate of Both Worlds on Lunar Snow early, when you had Tanuki with the Galactic Legend in hand, and then Melio just being able to farm up that Dance the Butterfly so quickly on the Psylocke, meant that he just got a very easy multi-pick in the end. It's also seeing the magic in play when you have all of these hallways. Angela works for this reason as well. Just the cleave damage that you can do when everybody's stacked up in these tight areas. You can just hold W and left click, and you can absolutely carve yourself a path to the grand finals of EMEA if Citadel keep this up.
1-0 up in this best of 5. Virtus Pro find themselves in a very familiar position of being down versus Citadel. That Dance of the Butterfly triple from Melio, timing so well with the defensive tools of Virtus Pro. We're starting to see once again that Cloak and Dagger being brought in to try and make up for the healing output that we're missing with Invisible Woman, who's getting kinda bullied in the ban phase.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed to be like the right adjustment. It's like Virtus Pro, I like the idea of going for the Vanguards because there's just less of them. It's a strategy that frankly is only going to work nowadays with either just going in for all of the strategists or the Vanguards because we're only going to get more of those characters eventually. But going for the Vanguards is a good idea to just see what it's like, whether Citadel Gaming are going to be prepared to deal with it. And they dealt with it fine. One thing that Enzo said, they worked on how flexible they are. That includes the Vanguards. It isn't exclusively down to the strategists or duelists if they have to flex.
I do like the idea, though. I really do like the idea of targeting the Vanguards, trying to force them onto stuff that's a little bit squishier, but it's just that Citadel are so good at adjusting their entire playstyle and these aggressive drafts that if you just take them off the standard setup of stuff like Emma, Magneto, Venom, stuff like that, they're more than happy to just go, all right, well, I guess we'll just run at you. You better be ready. You banned us, and we're making you react to it.
Yeah, it's given a lot for Virtus Pro to think about, whether it's going to be up into that best of 7 finals tomorrow or even the losers bracket beforehand. It's still a choice of map that is about to come to fruition in this BO5. So we'll go for a quick break before we see exactly where Virtus Pro want to take us for the next map.
Well, hello once again, Rivals. My name is Diatonic, and I've got your after-action report for the second week of the Marvel Rivals Ignite Asia Group Stage. Zero Tenacity were back in action to kick things off for Week 2, taking on Down Payment in the opening match. Z10 looked clean on Map 1, but Down Payment would claw their way to a reverse sweep, defeating Z10 2-1. Incipients were still on the hunt for their first group stage win as they took on U-Inks next, and they'd get themselves on the board with a big 2-0 win here. Rounding out this first day of Week 2 was yet another marquee matchup, the fated rematch between Stage 1 champs Reject and the newly rebuilt Gen G. Though the players have changed, the story was yet again one of triumph for Reject as they take the series in a close 2-1 showdown. The second day of Week 2 started off with a match between veteran team Assemble Fire, who are still in search of their first group stage win, against Incipients. But Incipients had picked up some steam here in Week 2 as they won their second game of the week in a close 2-1 bout. Down Payment also continued their winning streak, taking their third win in a row over Rocket University in a big 2-0 sweep. Onside Gaming look to keep their dominance alive in the next match as well, taking on U-Inks and walking away with a clean 2-0. And in the final Day 2 matchup, Zero Tenacity went head-to-head with the Vietnamese squad OEG. It was a tough draw for OEG, and they'd fall victim to Z10 2-0. Day 3 kicked off with a showdown between frontrunner team Crazy Raccoon and Onside Gaming, with CR continuing their flawless group stage campaign with yet another 2-0 win. We had a heavy hitter matchup between Gen G and Zero Tenacity next, one that Gen G would walk away the victors from with a complete 2-0 shutout. XOXO01 and Incipient stepped onto the field next, and EXO would lock in their playoff position here with a big win over Incipients. We ended the day on a very interesting matchup between Reject and Rocket University, with Rocket actually managing to take a map off Reject, but the only 3-map series of the day would go Reject's way in the end. The final day of the Asia Group stage began with 2 Legacy Ignite competitors, XOXO01 and a Symbol Fire, a matchup that EXO would win handily 2-0. Reject were back up against Down Payment, and the Stage 1 champs would emerge victorious here, also 2-0. Crazy Raccoon had their last match against U-Inks and would complete a perfect run through the group stage with yet another 2-0 win. And finally, the group stage would close with Gen G taking on OEG, with Gen G picking up the last win of the week. And after 2 weeks of group stage action, the Asia playoff picture was locked in. From Group A, Crazy Raccoon, XOXO01, Onside Gaming, and Incipients advanced to the playoffs. And from Group B, Reject, Gen G, Down Payment, and Zero Tenacity all make it through. The competition in the Asia region is looking hotter than ever, with only the top 2 teams qualifying for the Grand Finals LAN tournament later this year. Well, that's all for now, Rivals. I hope you caught your breath because we're about to dive right back in. Get ready to ignite the battle.
The story continues. Virtus.pro have the choice of map, and they're taking us to Midtown. It's a good map for them, Tetcher. They're 4-0 the stage. Yeah. It's a common pick, as you sort of mentioned. But it's the last times that we saw Virtus.pro lose on this map. The last 2 times were against the Berber Patapim team that stopped them from actually qualifying. I think it was even the last map in that final series that decided whether it was going to be Citadel Gaming that were Berber Patapim actually qualify for mid-season finals. So this one has consistently been a banger of a map to watch these 2 teams play.
Yes, it has. There's a lot of history here. This is very much a redemption run for Virtus.pro, but it's also statistically what they have been bringing out. Throughout this phase, every time they've lost map 1, they've gone to one of 2 maps, and that has been Araco, which they have had less than success on, and Midtown, which they have had significantly more success on. Virtus.pro definitely adjusting. And a lot of that comes down to how they like to play point 1. While the Rocket is effective on both maps, and both maps are played quite similar with the spawn holds, this is a map where there's a lot more cover and a lot more verticality, so you can actually play a little bit more flexible when it comes to that first hold point.
We need to see if Virtus.pro are going to continue on with their culling of the Vanguards, I guess is the best way to describe it. Citadel Gaming going back to their old roots of just perma-banning out the Mantis to begin with, but it does mean that we are going to get a one-sided EMEA at least, which makes sense. It follows the plan that Virtus.pro have been trying to put together in this series if they want to continue it, but also we're on a convoy map. And it's also a game mode that we haven't seen Citadel Gaming lose on convoy at all this stage.
Adam Warlock taken out, and like you say, not losing on convoy at all is gonna be a threatening statement. Not only is this the map where Virtus.pro lost on to qualify, not only is this a map where Citadel haven't really lost on this stage, / a game mode that they haven't lost on this stage. There's just so many things going to be weighing on Virtus.pro after that solid first map. And Citadel, they're going to grab themselves that Jeff, maybe try to force out the Venom ban from Virtus.pro, and they do so, sticking with the Vanguards.
Yeah, it seems to be the clear idea on what they want to do. In fact, I hear somebody locking in this pick. Both of these are shown at the same time, not only for us, but the teams that are in the server currently. So one of the teams, I assume it's probably Virtus Pro, is just like, another Vanguard, please. It almost feels like Countdown, like, another vowel, please, just Vanguards. And there it is. Yeah, Captain America taken out, but a one-sided Jeff available now for Citadel Gaming.
A painfully British reference, but one that I incredibly appreciate here. The one-sided Jeff. We do see once again Virtus Pro batting out the Captain America. This is a map where Angela actually sees a little bit less play. There are environmental pickups on most of the points here. They're just quite spread out, so we may see Angela, but it's a little bit riskier. Groot, on the other hand, is pretty consistent. We'll see him almost every single time that there is at least a triple Vanguard, triple strategist set up on this map.
And the Strange is banned out. Ooh, Virtus Pro. You're going to Atlanta. This might be what every team starts to pick up, but you're giving all of the teams that are now watching a little bit of food for thought on this approach. The Invisible Woman is going to be protected as well to provide some level of like protection to that backline, because it is just all strategists being banned out versus all Vanguards.
It really, really is. Doctor Strange preventing reinforcements. They got themselves the Invisible Woman. Virtus Pro have set themselves up for an aggressive hold here. Citadel, are they going to counterban the Strange? No, they ban the Venom as well to try and prevent some backline dive and force a front to back. But this now means that Virtus Pro, they have access to the Doctor Strange, so they can go in for a double reinforce. They now have Emma, Groot, Rocket, potentially if they want to go for the double reinforce when they go on defense, and Strange to return to the actual point. The only thing they don't have on their defense, at least, is Adam. But that is not something they have to worry about yet, because it is going to be Virtus Pro starting on attack.
It is, again, a really interesting draft. You've got a one-sided Emma, Captain America, and Strange for VP, and then a one-sided Mantis, Adam, and Jeff. It's the strategist backline looking good, but it is going to force Polly and Enzo, as well as probably Melio in some of these cases, because we do expect some triple Vanguard in play here. Certainly if Citadel are looking to defend first. Means that your options are somewhat limited in these games, and it also makes sense why that first ban of Emma comes in. Not only is she really good on this game mode, but it is the most like first protected character across all of the maps the Citadel Gaming have. They really want to get that Emma Frost into the hands of Polly or Enzo, depending on the setup. So it's like two birds, one stone that Virtus Pro have managed here.
But will those stones find their targets? For now, they're going to go for a bit of Moonstone to start off with the Moon Knight to try and burn through those Groot walls, set themselves up nice and early. Citadel, they're going to start off on the Groots to try and go for defense, and the Human Torch siege in from above, make the most of the double aerials that they have here.
Ken's able to find the pick. Citadel Gaming not opting for the triple Vanguards. Instead, it's just going to be two, maybe because they only have so many. But it also makes sense that you have the Torch available so you can have some more offensive fire. And that synergizes really nicely with Melio. This duo lineup is going to work well up in the sky. And then Ken, the team up that's going to have for Loki and Mantis helping with a lot, and just keeping like double soul resurgences to keep these fights going, can work out wonders. You're not really going to get much, I think, out of copying the Rage of Ultron, but a Strangling Prison already for Polly? It's another Vanguard that he might be having a top performance on, and he's able to take out two.
Polly with the double was damage boost by Ken. Like you mentioned with the team up for the Mantis, they've set up a wild wall around the corner to keep the team topped up, especially with the flyers in the air. This is Citadel making the most of what they have with an incredible combination, forcing Virtus Pro to swap over to the Punisher, just have something to try and counter the air. Same with the Winter Soldier, try and knock him out of the sky with that tainted voltage, and they're going in for the aggressive play here. Media M's and into the backline, finds Dridro. Rage of Ultron looking for the counter, chasing back Fincy round the corner. They don't find it, but Nemex has left abandoned, and they still get Fincy.
They've had to reset them all the way back again. There's a minute and a half that's been used up for Virtus Pro. They went for that bunker break on the attacking side, expected Citadel Gaming to be a little bit more ratty and rodent-y, maybe with running the Rocket Raccoon and stuff like the Adam Warlock. But it is just your typical sort of setup, really. Nothing too out of the ordinary, nothing too cheesy. It is just more that because Virtus Pro went for all of those Vanguards in the ban, there's so much room for activities for Citadel Gaming to play different kind of compositions. It's up in the sky. There is going to be the guard that's going to attempt to protect Spark as he was hit by the Strangling Prison, but it's all for naught as Ken shoots him down.
The healing output, you can see that massive radius on the heat regeneration domain from Ken, thanks to that team up with the Deotic Vitality from the Mantis. Supernova into the invisible boundary to just try and out-damage it, to try and set up, to try and keep Virtus Pro stuck at this first point. Virtus Pro are trying to create an opening, and in fact, Melio is dropping low. Alex is the first to fall. Polly is running out of HP. They are running out of healing. Ken is forced to drop an invisible boundary, stealing it away with that God of Mischief. Melio has another Rage of Ultron, could go for a counter. They've been able to take out Phi. They're buying time, but the cart is slowly but steadily moving forward.
There's only so much that they can hold on to now that Virtus Pro have changed up their comp just a little bit more too. You still have got the triple strategist, but you have also got to favor both worlds if you want to start pushing up. Phi is going to be fighting a 1v2 up in the sky, really. If it wasn't for Sparker that's going to have that success. Meteor M narrowly missing out on the ulting Ultron. He's wanted to see if he can sort of clear up this battlefield that is just covered in fire and flame. One of them is going to be snuffed out from Nevix that's able to get the catch in, and the Rage of Ultron now used on the defensive side of Citadel.
Phi is zoning beautifully. The Supernova is going to expire. Groot walls to buy every extra second. Enzo is forced to put their body on the line to step up to make their way in. That is dropped extremely low. Polly interrupted mid-cast, set onto the 50% cooldown, and they will get melted along with Enzo. Citadel's defenses crumble at the hands of Virtus Pro as they are easily taking point one.
It was a good fight and a couple of minutes wasted for Citadel Gaming, but I think the one thing that we've consistently seen teams get wrong, whether there's a way of getting it right, I think on this map is losing the second checkpoint far too quickly. In fact, that seems to be the case on all of the convoy maps. Holding on to second outside of Yggdrasil just doesn't seem that doable in some of these fights with some of these comps. But for Virtus Pro, they're finding a lot more in this sort of frontline success now with Vinci over on the EMEA Frost and then Nevix on this Groot. Polly and Enzo not having to switch, but what do you switch to?
What do you switch to? That is the question, because right now Polly is already landing some pretty good shots with these straggling prisons, but has been caught at least once, so it's gotta be better timing. There is a straggling prison actually getting caught, as I say it, by Nevix, trying to wall themselves to freedom, but it's just not enough. Is there enough healing output for the side of Citadel right here, as once again Virtus Pro taking advantage of the fact that main burst healing comes from either Rage of Ultron or Loki autos.
You don't have a Doctor Strange portal either, so if you're going to contest this, you have to sort of do it on your toesies, and you're running right into the fire and flames to try to get a touch on and stop this payload from really moving for free consistently all throughout second. You've got the Rage of Ultron available for Sparker again. He just seems to have it always in hand as and when needed. And the invisible boundaries, as Cypher switched away from that Cloak and Dagger to the Invisible Woman, has really been dividends to allow these fights to end up being a little bit more scrappy on the objectives. Now finally you have Citadel Gaming finding a couple of picks themselves, and now it's a hot commodity for Virtus Pro to keep contesting, but there's still a minute left.
A minute left. They are, however, getting quite staggered. They're holding the point, though. Just ever so slowly retreating, but they're not actually backing all the way up the ramp. They are going to get punished for that, though. If they'd retreated, they maybe could have regrouped, but they could have also been chased down. If they were staying there, there was a chance they wanted to potentially recontest with Nevix using the straggling prison, but with Citadel Gaming, they've now been able to take advantage of this and actually pick up a stagger. Do we force out the silent seduction from Fincy just to try and create some space and open up the pathway? But Nevix is still walking back from spawn.
Melio is taking a few pod shots, trying to see if he can scout out a bit more information. Vinci taking a lot of damage, has to back out a little bit more at the end of that Psionic Seduction. But Tanuki's been taken out in this Torch versus Torch battle. Rage of Ultron is going to be used on the defense from Melio. Not afraid to be offensive, but needs to keep an eye on the flanks that he was watching beforehand. Soon as he starts to look away, that's where Phi starts to come in. You've got him potentially right behind where Citadel Gaming are playing for, with a Supernova in hand. So this is going to be very uncomfortable. If it wasn't for Tanuki actually finding the numbers, OT is going into action, Tetcher, and Virtus Pro are throwing the fire into this heat.
Enzo's Meteor M finds nothing, but that cannot be said for Phi, who is creating a huge zoning area with these flames from the Supernova. Spark is going to try and chase down Tanuki and will get him. One of the best hit scan players for a reason. The rocket is zoned. They're not even close to that point. They're having their own little battle. Vinci is melting. It is still Citadel, still trying to contest this. But Spark is going to be able to make their way back in as they did take care of Melio off to the side. The Supernova coming on out from Tanuki as the last ditch effort for reinforcements. Remember, no portal from the side of Citadel, but there is a portal from the side of Virtus Pro, and Nevix is going to try and bring them back to keep this fight going. The torch duel lost for ages, the dodges from Fi, but it is finally taken by Tanuki. Can they hold this? The portal brought back a couple members. Virtus Pro testing this for as long as possible. The shield is giving them everything they can. Polly returns to the battle rebirth beacon to keep this going. Ken with the clone into the soul resurgence to buy as much time as they can. And Virtus Pro, once again, it is shades of last stage. They are stopped in the underground.
That just fight seemed to be going on for so long. Citadel Gaming, how they managed to get the numbers back without a Strange. It was a really nice idea to move over to the Rocket Raccoon as well too, just because not only do you have to be right back, we saw, I think it was Fi that was trying to go into the backline to fight Melio, and he wasted like 35 seconds to try and go for this 1v1. Meanwhile, the rest of Citadel Gaming, all of these tankier targets on the objective, on the point themselves. But man, Virtus Pro, it seemed like they were just going to get that point for free towards the end.
Yeah, second series in a row where we've seen Rocket Raccoon evasive strategies, aka hold space on a wall and run around for a bit, actually being pretty viable, just so you can buy some extra time and keep a distraction going. But even with the portal, Citadel are just reinforcing too quickly, and sustaining with that triple strategist bought them more than enough time.
Just seeing as well, outside of the 8 times that we've seen Citadel play in Convoy game mode full stop, 6 out of 8 times Emma Frost has been at first protect, or Strange, or Adam. So they did get the Adam. They've gone for Jeff here. I think it's one of those ones that, like for Virtus Pro, if you go for the Vanguards, it limits your options with just other stuff that you can do. If you are wanting to run triple strategist, yeah, if you have access to Mantis, Adam, Jeff, Invisible Woman, Luna, you're only really going to pick 3. So you're almost spoiled for choice. I like the Citadel sort of, okay, we're going to go for the Jeff here because we can make it work in a 2-2-2. In fact, it's going to be him and Alex that are just this strategist lineup for the more offensive option to break through. They catch on to Vinci straight away, but the Rocket Raccoon Beer back is going to bring him straight in.
Virtus Pro, this competition is supposed to have sustain. You're not supposed to get taken out in the first second of the round. The pressure from Citadel right now. But the revives, Virtus Pro, once again, as we reiterate, they've got Rocket for Battle Rebirth Beacon, which has been burned quite early. They have Portal from Fi if they get taken down. This is about the absolute attrition that Virtus Pro can now bring to this to try and slow down Citadel. But Citadel's damage numbers, Virtus Pro, it almost feels like they're just surviving by the skin of their teeth. They are barely holding on. Finally, they're able to regroup. Straggling Prison finds nothing.
And Polly still has his ready to go, as has Ken got the It's Jeff. Everybody sort of backed up into this room. He's going to force out the invisible boundary, which is what Virtus Pro were probably looking for. There's an eternal bond in hand for Dreedro, and there is. You can force out more of these strategy ultimates. The final judgment is going to try to get a little bit more action, but it's really setting up this Jeff Nado combination. It's charging through. It's only managed to grab onto one player of Nevix, and it's chipping away, doing damage to him, separating him away from the rest of the pack. And slam down from Enzo, not connected too much on the Meteor M. The Terror Keeper is going to make it so his damage capabilities are a little bit more scary, precarious when they're trying to get past this. Honestly, Virtus Pro are holding this with their damned lives, and it seems to be working out.
They are giving everything for this point. They are holding it. Fi is still up. When they go down, it's portal time, but they just held that for almost 2 minutes. Citadel, they're bringing out the Jeff Nado to try and counter triple strategist because you can't heal if you're in Jeff. It's a pretty solid strategy, and of course that Jeff Nado combo means the duration is extended, means they can contest that for longer, but you're only going to get that every now and again, whereas Virtus Pro, they're just going for maximum duration. They're not actually going to contest onto the point. They are giving Citadel a little bit more distance in exchange for a better defendable position.
I think it's for the turret as well, just putting it in a place where they actually get out the other side, so it's a little bit of cover that they're able to make. A pretty much invulnerable wall that allows Virtus Pro to try to group up where they want this payload to stop and go for this engagement now. Invisible Boundary and a Strangling Prison means that they want to concentrate this engagement for Citadel Gaming, pretty much force them to jaywalk onto the roads of New York, but a final judgment might be the thing that cuts on through. If Nevic's actually able to grab 2, he even gets the melee to shut that one down. So Citadel Gaming only having 90 seconds to try to push past this. They don't have a Strange to teleport either, and it's a good distance away is the payload from them.
They do have Jeff, though. Speed bubbles can reinforce the team to the point. Tanuki as well with the Goddess boost will allow them to get a little bit of a speed boost to try and rush to the point. But Virtus Pro, sensible decision. They try to step up to make it so that there's more time that has to be burned. 1 minute to go for Citadel to hit that second point. Media M at the ready. Here comes the Jeff Nado to create the opening. Dark Force teleport being prepared, so they go and wrap around to the side instead. Once again, gonna pick up Nevix, who can do nothing to stop them.
Oh, and they're actually getting a little bit more. Sparker's forced back too. And I don't know, because he had the portal play before, there's not really going to be too much that allows Virtus Pro to stall this other than just individual players throwing themselves at bit by bit. There's a couple more, but it is more just the wasting of time. There's 3 minutes now for Citadel Gaming to reach the end of second and to pick up their second map of this BO5.
Beautifully executed so far by Citadel. Virtus Pro, they have been absolutely dragging Citadel through the mud to try and slow them down, literally just throwing their bodies at the point. But now we're past that first objective. It's time for fighting. It's no longer about just delaying as long as possible. Now you actually have to take them out. You need to win these fights. They're moving over to the Ultron for a little bit more damage. Sparker does the butterfly, punish the backline, also a hit scan character to try and help deal with that storm.
It's whether you can force stuff out. In fact, Citadel are like, we're not going to wait. We have 3 big ultimates. We're going to use them in one go. The Soul Resurgence, the Strangling Prison, and the Final Judgment. Even with this invisible boundary, it's not going to do a thing. And it makes sense, too, because yet again, Virtus Pro won't have that portal to rely on because that fight got wiped so quickly.
They're trying to step up to the point, trying to set themselves up, trying to create as much space as possible. Virtus Pro will be able to make it back, but they have to rush out fast. Captain America coming in. They've had to swap to Angela. Sidebay was caught, isolated from the team. They're able to be taken down. Vinci falls, and Virtus Pro are getting melted. Does the butterfly, but out of the count of the body, the car moves in. That is 2-0 to Citadel.
Oh, it was a really good fight, a good decision. Whoever called that one for Citadel Gaming to go for something uber aggressive. It felt that teams were setting up for the neutral, farm up some ultimates, but because Citadel Gaming had 3 good things to work with, let's just go fast and go hard into Virtus Pro's backline and just completely decimate them. Tanuki this time getting the MVP away from the Vanguards, a little bit more restricted with some of the characters, but you've got people like Ken on only 2 eliminations against him. Same with Enzo. It just seemed that they were stalwart in the face of Virtus Pro's offensive capabilities.
Just, again, Virtus Pro slowed them down for so long, but look at the health bars that Virtus Pro were juggling that entire time. Every time the fight happened, Virtus Pro were barely surviving, and Citadel were just kind of vibing because they were close to spawn. The second they broke through that point, Virtus Pro just weren't able to contest, because every single time Citadel were winning the fights, it was just a question of how quickly they won them. Lovely blocks coming in from the side of Virtus Pro from a lot of those abilities, but it's just Citadel overwhelmed them.
It's weird too, because I think for the macro side of the game, like Na'Vi is certainly up there. There's another team that's the world champions naturally they're going to be. But Virtus Pro are very good at playing around like the cap, the payload, objective-based maps where they want to take these fights and stuff, as is Citadel, because it is a game mode that they haven't lost on, and that's going to continue on. But in this case, it does feel like the macro side of it, Citadel are playing really nicely. They've adjusted very well to Virtus Pro throwing in this curveball of going for the Vanguard band. But also, again, we have some of the players going, nobody in this region shoots back. And it almost seemed like it was coped to begin with because Citadel weren't really considered a threat in this region. Now it does feel like the other teams aren't shooting back against Citadel. They're getting diffed right now.
Citadel are pulling a rad from stage 1 where they're just like, why is everyone underestimating us? We're really good. What are you doing? And they're proving it. They're just continuing to push on through this upper bracket. We'll have to see if they do repeat a rad by losing in the grand finals. But at this point, getting to that grand finals almost seems like an afterthought if they keep playing like this. Virtus Pro have got to change something.
Yeah, it feels that maybe because that pressure isn't on them as much, they're going for this plan. They maybe want to see it out. We have to go to a convergence game mode, which typically does suit Virtus Pro for the most part. So they have that at least to rely on. But we'll have to see which map it is going to be exactly for Virtus Pro to potentially fight back in this BO5, or it's going to be Citadel Gaming in that grand final of EMEA. We'll see after this quick break.
Smoke screen! I'm hunkering down. Judge! Jury! Executioner!
Emma, Venom, Cap, Strange, which sounds like a rap almost. That sounds like a beat that somebody should make into a song. But it seemed that Virtus Pro had given up on this Vanguard ban strategy and going to something more general, I suppose, in their approach.
Speaking of the approach, we will see with that Luna protected, the counteraction is open for Citadel to bat out stuff like the Ultron of their own, or potentially a Jeff, or even an Invisible Woman. They start on a bit of Vanguard banning of their own here. They're going to take out the Venom again.
Makes sense, trust me. Just like to play that character for the fast rollouts. Mostly on the defense, but it is just making sure that they can go for something one-sided and maybe even give Virtus Pro a taste of their own medicine here with the draft. They want to one-side the Venom themselves, but ultimately they could go for the Mantis. They are going to go for the Venom. So they're not going to go for the Jeff. They're not going to go for the Ultron. They're going for something completely different. Not even the Emma.
One-sided Venom. This is kind of trying to force Virtus Pro's hand to take out the Jeff, which they could do so in the double ban phase here. But Virtus Pro first prioritizing the Star-Lord. Very sensible. If there's going to be a Venom on the board, then Star-Lord is a great follow-up for that. Sometimes going in for a Feast of the Abyss with a Dance with a Blaster Barrage could be a really scary setup, and this makes it very easy for Venom to try and land those final hits. No Jeff bans yet, though. Citadel, they take out Sparker's Adam, and we will see the Phoenix taken out the other side.
Just any aerial battlers here. Virtus Pro are trying to make sure that the offensive capabilities of Citadel Gaming's preferred 222 are not going to be fully available to them. So instead of going for the Vanguards in the draft, it's almost like they're going for the Duelists, and I'm counting Ultron in that pseudo role as well to an extent.
Be even more so next stage, as we will see the protection onto the Lunar Snow, still making sure that they have at least some kind of defensive ultimates here. There goes Silent as well. Virtus Pro are going hard on the Duelist output for Citadel. They have one last protect on their side. They don't have the option for a Venom, so it's unlikely they'll protect something like a Jeff, but they could protect Invisible Woman to guarantee themselves a solid backline and set themselves up for a 2-2-2 that Citadel could struggle with. But no, it's going to be Emma as the main priority. It's been banned out a couple times, mostly against Citadel, but Virtus Pro, they know it's one of the more successful bans against them.
So there's a chance to non-mirror something as well, whether it's strategists, take out the likes of an Ultron so it's not available on either side. Going for a one-sided Jeff is going to be a one-sided Invisible Woman. So it's like, what do we still have available here? Jeff's still available, Mantis is available on Citadel Gaming side, and Ultron is available on Virtus Pro's side. Interesting.
I like what Citadel are doing here. If you're going to have all of your duelists banned out, then you need to make sure that you're getting some extra value. So they will actually they're considering switching off it, so I might just be wrong, but they were considering going for the Namor here with the Incredible Hulk. This is going to give them the opportunity to just try and overwhelm the fact that Virtus Pro have gone very heavy on the flyers by keeping those squids and a little bit of extra pressure. And of course, the Hulk jumps to try and take them out. We did see a little bit of a hover onto that Jeff as well, meaning it might be a Hulk and Venom combo, which is a little bit risky, but has very high reward output if you're able to get a nice aggressive push going.
This is the wildest draft I think we might have seen in Ignite in EMEA, because sometimes you have characters that are banned out in both teams. Like, neither of us are allowed to play Emma. This is the first time that I've seen Tetra where all of the bans are just non-mirrored. So you've got Mantis, Venom, Adam, Invisible Woman available on the side of Citadel, Ultron, Star-Lord, Jean Grey, and Psylocke available for Virtus Pro. There's 8 characters that are only available on one side and not the other. It's crazy.
High ground's going to be set up by Citadel Gaming. You can see the Lokis going to be positioning themselves. They aren't going to go for that Namor. They decided to pick the one flyer that they still have left available to them. As you mentioned earlier, everything else was banned out. Storm is technically around, but it's unlikely to be seen on this map. And they've brought themselves out the Human Torch with the potential damage boost from Melio on that Mantis. They're trying to pressure onto the Mantis onto the Angela that Nevix has brought out, and already Tanuki is on the run.
I have forced out the regeneration domain, I think, for Ken, though, but everybody's spread out. You can start to see that this high ground has been harassed enough from Virtus Pro on his left-hand side that it has forced Citadel Gaming to the low ground outside of the torch that's thrown in that fire from above. But it is fire that actually gets the pick onto Melio, taking out one of the 3 strategists that's on this defense. It's Alex and Ken on their pretty much namesake strategists that are left to keep the rest of the team alive, with Polly trying to dive in on the Venom and Enzo on that Emma Frost.
They're trying to contest it, trying to buy as much time as they can, but that point is ticking up for Virtus Pro. Rage of Ultron to try and zone them away. Here comes that God of Mischief into the fate of both worlds to give them extra time onto the point. Citadel have decided that they will make their stand early, but once these expire, Dorindro has an It's Jeff, and if they're not careful, this triple Vanguard setup the Citadel have swapped to could get caught out and picked off the point. It's Jeff coming on in. Another fate of both worlds from Alex to buy them a little bit of extra time as Tanuki sieges on in, going for the inside Jeff. Looking to get one, trying to escape, but it's going to be a spit onto the point to try and escape as Melio takes to the sky to punch Human Torch.
Melio has come back off of the Mantis onto Doctor Strange, which is fine because the 2 strategists are Loki and Luna. They can keep a whole team up. We're sort of used to seeing that matchup work out themselves, but it does mean that the portal, I think, for Citadel Gaming was used quite early on in this fight. 95% actually progression on the board for Virtus Pro to take first, but they are forced back pretty much to give up this space. Citadel actually going to lose on this point first, and in a good amount of time too.
The healing output was just not enough. You can see Citadel were just zoned out. The pressure on the backline that Nevix was causing. Fi's overwhelming damage means that Melio tried to back up to let that Loki heal them up, but was just taking too much damage. Was trying to step back onto the point, but just got blown up immediately when they took a step forward. And Citadel, now they bring out the Hulk and the Namor.
Does feel like maybe Virtus Pro, because they went for the Star-Lord, Jean Grey, and Psylocke in the draft, that they kind of want to force Citadel Gaming onto triple strategist. They feel that they might be able to sort of beat them in this neutral matchup. And yeah, you've got the Gamma team up between Tanuki on the Namor and Enzo on the Hulk, trying to go for something that is a little bit more neutral in these engagements, trying to sort of dig their heels into a fight, and they're going to be forced into it off this Angela ultimate. The Cleave attempted to come through, but they're actually going to back off a little bit more. It's the Rage of Ultron that's going to force out the fate of both worlds on the defense, and that's from Ken getting the copy.
Regeneration domain was dropped early to counteract the initial engage from Nevix, but once it expired, there just wasn't a lot of tools left to stop Sparker from unleashing the Rage of Ultron to push on into this point. Fi already creating a nice zoning location here. They'll soon have a Pyro Prison off cooldown to set up. Tanuki trying to take them down with the squids, and it's a blow up onto Fi. Fate of both ones has already been forced down, as well as the Aquatic Blessing to take to the air. Drindro, it's Jeff, Horde of Proteus! It's a fish-on-fish violence!
Yeah, Tanuki tried to command the ocean and get Jeff a little bit more in line, but he's based on the ground. It's nothing to do with you, Namor. has to chill out a bit, but he's going very aggressive, frenzied approach to try to take back some of his space. And 5 from a good amount of distance away, using the supernova more as a zoning tool to just get themselves a little bit more control in this fight. That seemed a bit weirdly positioned and ill-timed.
Enzo very nearly drops low, but it's a distraction, allowing Melio to come in with the Soul Resurgence. Tanuki is finding pickups, one after the other. The ocean obeys him, and Tanuki, not usually a creature native to the ocean, has taken it under their domain.
I do like Nevix playing the Angela on this point, though, because you could already see it, certainly from Ken on the low-key. He played it a little bit yesterday, just setting up on the high ground in these various positions and crossfiring means that he's impossible to dive, that he has good sight lines, and they can position well with where Virtus.pro want to take this fight. Angela will just force you off of that high ground. It's more whether or not Fight and Sparker could follow up with some of the more lethal capabilities, because Ken is going to be incredibly hard to dive. Taking out Enzo is good, but you do have some ultimates to go on this defense to keep them alive, but both Vanguards are actually down on the side of Citadel Gaming.
Heron's Retribution going to be burned. It manages to trap basically everyone, but you can see Nemix delaying the full follow-up engage here. As such, won't find anything else outside of the initial engage, but forcing people to the inside to try and deal with this problem. Here comes the Silent Seduction to try and deal with the Human Torch, get Fi out of danger, but Fi is able to escape, evade, and keep Virtus.pro at full strength through this push. Nemix taking out Melio with the flank once again on that Angela. They still have it, it's Jeff. They still have a Fate of Both Worlds. It's Jeff coming into the backline. Fate of Both Worlds once again to give them invulnerability. Tanuki frozen. Where is that fish? Drindro coming on in, not finding a lot of targets, but the Silent Seduction will zone Citadel off the point.
Rage of Ultron is going to be used, and it seems that we are just looking at that flashing Q button for Tanuki, where that Horn of Proteus is going to come through. What is he waiting for in particular? Maybe the Fate of Both Worlds from side page, sort of forcing that out, but it feels that at that point Citadel just ran out of steam. They couldn't go for this neutral fight with the constant aerial damage that Virtus.pro are throwing in. Forced to reset early, and you can see just how quickly Fi wants to close that distance and take all of this ground for free.
Virtus.pro making some good momentum. This is the best they've looked so far in this matchup versus Citadel. Finally a bad strategy that seems to have found them a little bit of a target. Once again is going to catch Enzo, but Enzo a little bit too close to their team this time. Will be able to retreat and try and sustain on through. Drindro in the distraction is actually taken down from a distance. Enzo will finally fall, but again Tanuki is on the flank causing problems.
Seems to be Enzo going down first in a lot of these fights. Just too much damage to be thrown in, and he only has so much mitigation to work with. And that's when he does have like the Magneto and stuff that he could adjust to. The Vanguards are a little bit more open. It's just because Tanuki is on that Namor that they want to keep that team up working for both of them. This time Polly is going to be the one that goes down first in this engagement, and the Horn of Proteus is going to be used as a flanking deal. It's not back, but it has forced out Sidepay to bring out that Fate of Both Worlds to keep Virtus.pro alive in this fight.
Sleep has fused onto Nevix. It's Jeff, 1-for-1, grabs Angela, trying to escape as they spin Angela out to take that Adam Warlock away to somewhere where they can be targeted down, but Ken does have the revive and the self-revive, so they could bring themselves back to try and contest this, but they're likely going to be tracked as Polly is forced to retreat on this Emma. Ken is going to be heading back to the standard respawn point here so they can regroup and try and finally contest in the actual temple itself, because Virtus.pro, the push continues.
Really does feel that if you can keep this kind of tempo up against the Namor hold combination, they just can't set up. They can't really do anything. So the response has to come in from the Silent Seduction used from Polly, and a Karma Revival was used from Ken, I believe. So it's not as if it got too much in the end on the Adam Warlock. At least now a chance to actually contest this point with 10 seconds left.
No revives. Not worth the portal when the point is this close, but they do have reinforcements. They can try and just rush in on these fast rollout heroes that they know they are so good at, but that's if they get taken down. That Gamma Monstro is unleashing in the actual doorway, but it's going to be taken out. Horn of Proteus available, going in for the flank to once again pressure the backline to prevent them from pushing in further, but it's getting dropped low. The Angela causing difficulties. Polly takes out Fincy, and Virtus.pro, they're starting to run out of time here. Citadel have timed their push here extremely beautifully. It's Jeff, Horn of Proteus, it's cancelled out, but no one was on the point.
So that's the second time that that's happened for Virtus.pro. almost finishing out the map, and Citadel doing well, I think, to stop hemorrhaging some of that space. The point was taken relatively early from comparisons to other teams when they hold Hall of Jalia, but the second point just seemed to go the way of Virtus.pro quite quickly. Gotta say, I feel like it was that switch over from Ken to go onto the Adam Warlock for the soul share to just soul bond to share out some of that damage a little bit more. Current revival if a lot of people go down at once. And it did feel that once that payload started to move into that bottlenecked area, Tetra, that at least Enzo and Tanuki could set up a little bit more, that they weren't just going down over and over again. But it still was a lot of space given up. Virtus.pro might be a bit frustrated that the map didn't finish for them.
But Citadel likely going to be equally as frustrated that they weren't able to hold a little bit earlier. They lost so much time on that first point where they tried to stay through. They burned Portal. They put everything on the line for that. And Virtus.pro's overwhelming momentum was just able to break through, even bringing out the Melio Doctor Strange to try and reinforce. And they just got no value out of that. They just got picked off so quickly. Citadel, they're also not going to be feeling happy about it. And with very few duelist options available to them, thanks to Virtus.pro's batting strategy, they're kind of limited when it comes to this attack.
Both best of fives that we saw from Berber Patmim and Virtus.pro, Jalia was a choice of VP and a win for them. So in this particular matchup, Virtus.pro seem to have Citadel Gaming's number, but it's whether Citadel Gaming can pretty much get to the end of this map to not only break that streak, but also cement themselves as finalists for EMEA Ignite Stage 2. Both teams have already qualified. You don't need to worry about that too much, but they're still bragging rights and a ton of money to earn.
Absolutely, the prize money very much goes up between first, second, and third. Tanuki trying to siege on against, taking a lot of damage, but the healing output is good. Melio revives, gets healed, and taken out again immediately, but allows Tanuki to try and retreat. But look at Virtus.pro once again mirroring the first point. Instead of actually pushing in to try and take the point, they push everyone off it.
It also makes sense that they're sort of committing hard to this like whole Namor combination, because a lot of the other duelists have been taken out from Tanuki and Melio. Have to find something a little bit more unique, and whilst Torch is good at just throwing out this damage like we've seen from Phi, it doesn't have that dive ability. Maybe you could bring out something like a Psylocke? Oh no, wait, that was banned out right at the end from Virtus.pro too. So yeah, good luck Citadel to try and find those breakpoints to get past all of this healing that Virtus.pro with the triple strategists are throwing out.
So instead they've gone for sustain. The dive comes in from the Vanguards, but Polly already falls. They've got damage boost and Namor, which basically one-shots everything, but they need to land their hits. They're finally able to do so. Melio is also going to be doing some good damage. Of course, the main attacks with the Quantum Magic from the Adam Warlock are hit scans, and the Cosmic Cluster is some insane burst. So they do have the tools to try and do some kind of damage output. Portal forced out from Virtus.pro to try and contest.
Yeah, they managed to get the portal play in. It's Jeff is going to be used from Dreydro, seeing if he can catch on these players. Horde of Proteus, though, takes him straight out. As soon as he's able to grab anybody, it's going to be reset. And now you've got that Fate of Both Worlds going to be used from Saipei to keep everybody alive, and Finzi to try to pull all Citadel Gaming together. The numbers are starting to dwindle on this attacking side. We've got the Worldbreaker Hulk coming through from Enzo to just sustain himself a little bit longer. But Melio and Tanuki have to sort of come back on foot if they want to keep fighting this one. It's pretty much 80% progression onto the point, and now Phi, just off the back of this supernova, is making it very uncomfortable for Citadel to keep a hold of this.
Polly is giving everything they can. The delaying on the point. Tanuki comes in for that last second flank to get the damage output, and that point ticks on up. The reinforcing portal once again. Melio finding much more success on it this time.
I mean, he's had a lot of good moments. Certainly Na'Vi, it was more the defensive Yggdrasil one, remembering Melio just switching over to allow the Strange moving over musical chairs of what Vanguards are going to be in play. Now on the Adam Warlock as triple strategists with Mantis, Jeff, and Adam. Typically, it's like you only want to give them one of those characters, but all three were given up for Virtus.pro in an attempt to go for a different ban and stop some of the more offensive capabilities. But Tanuki on the Namor, he's making it sing.
Doing so much damage. It one-shots everything with Mantis buff, and just landing that right click with 2 squids up is enough to burst through most characters. Virtus.pro, though, they just have a stronger setup in terms of the torch and of course the Ultron in the sky. But if Tanuki lands the hits, it's easily counterable. Here comes it's Jeff, Horde of Proteus to try and take them down, to try and burst through Dreydro, who got a double isolation onto the Vanguards and is going to take them far away from the point.
It's Jeff on the other side now. Ken is going to try to loom in. Even with the dive attempt from Polly, he's not able to get too much, and Saipe's actually able to send him straight back to spawn. Soul Resurgence for Alex has to be used, but just as Melio goes down, the Life Cocoon means that he's going to be back in this fight, and it's pretty safe for him to actually be brought back in this engagement currently. You got Tanuki that's been forced back on a lot of this pace of Virtus Pro are trying to set up from the fate of both worlds, and losing Alex, it might have to be a chance to regroup as a full 6 if Tanuki is trying to just get his ultimate online more so than anything.
They're able to get Alex back into the fight with the Karmic Revival to bring them onto this point. The Silent Seduction from Fincy creates some space, but that cart is still moving. That cat is still moving. Lockdown from Nevix on the Hulk themselves now. Enzo, the very rare appearance of the Bruce Banner, is sent right back to spawn. But this is once again Virtus Pro burning through time and burning through members of Citadel who are forced back to spawn, and this is going to have to be a reset.
Quite literally burning through them. Supernova was used, and there's so much more for Virtus Pro to rely on in this defense. Polly's trying to reset, but ends up getting exiled, stunned from Nevix, that's trying to win out this Hulk versus Hulk game. And Citadel Gaming might have had a good chance there, just off the Cabot Revival to swing back in. A Horn of Proteus was available for Tanuki, but Virtus Pro regrouped. They backed off and then re-engaged as and when they were needed. Really good stuff on the defense. If they want to try and take and keep a map, this is a good chance to do it with a minute on the clock pretty much for Citadel to try to hit second. A lot of damage done into Fi, who has to sort of regroup with the rest of his team. There's a lot of peel that's going to keep him going, but Virtus Pro have to give up some amount of space.
High ground was taken with Soulborn. Fincy's dropped down. Melio with the final hit. Going to push onto the point. A delay attempt from Nevix with the Hulk smash. It's Jeff to try and gain some control. Both Jeffs, in fact, going for Swallows. Dripper finds nothing. Ken is able to get nothing as well. Neither one finding a lot of value, allowing the portal to come in from Fincy for the last couple seconds worth of delay, but they have to spend Dritro for it, and that was just strange on the point alone. Fincy, the lone warlock to try and hold it. Saipe reinforcing just in time though. Fate of both worlds. Citadel, they're running out of bodies, but Melio can revive. Karmic Revive could come in, but they need to find a safe position. They will revive Tanuki onto the point though. Polly and Alex also reinforcing. But Virtus Pro, they are close to their spawn and are running it as well.
It's pretty much all going to be forced out. Iwagamoto just connect onto two of the strategists, and they both go down instantly off the back of it. The follow-up is there for Fincy, and Fi has been an absolute golden hero to keep this team fighting in this point. Citadel Gaming trying to keep themselves on the fight, winning it there and then off the back of the Camera Revival and Portal. They have neither now. How on earth are they going to be able to touch?
They're going to have to just try and dive it with Enzo. A similar situation they were last time, but they're down. They do touch it. Melio brought out Spider-Man to try and delay. They're literally just skimming the point to hit overtime over and over. Alex now on the point, and it's just an absolute treadmill of pickups for Virtus Pro, who are finally able to pick up a map.
It was a great portal that came in, I think, from Nevix. Fi was able to get the eliminations, but that fate of both worlds right at the end, if that fight doesn't go well, I think for Dredra, it might be Saipe that moved over to it actually. If that goes wrong, I think they lose the map because they're not going to be able to build that ultimate up in time, but they had the ability to fight back in this engagement. And man, for Thai as well to show up like this, 39 and 7, 16 final hits. He really needed to make a name for himself, and Virtus Pro's idea of banning out a lot of those duelists really seemed to cut down the claws of Citadel.
If Fincy had gone down after coming through that portal before Saipe got there with that Fate of Both Worlds, you are 100% right, it would be over. They just had to delay as long as they could, and it was very simply, don't try to fight, don't try to ball, I'm going to stand here with my shield up and wait, because I cannot win this alone, and that is something that people need to remember. This is a team game. Sometimes you just need to be on that point. Melio tried to do the same with Spider-Man, literally just flying across it, bit by bit, back and forth, just trying to hold overtime for extra ticks, but at that point, it's just one by one people coming in from Citadel, while Virtus Pro are grouped of 6.
That is such a big combination. Even Tanuki narrowly missing out on the damage from the Horde of Proteus. It was just a great play for Fincy to go in onto that Camera Revival and able to take down two people that were just eliminated. So it really is like the kind of map that you want to be seeing a little bit more from Virtus Pro, certainly in these kinds of game modes. And Citadel Gaming might be a little bit worried that this could bite them in the backside, because I think that kind of whole draft strategy of taking out Psylocke, Starlord, Jean Grey really worked out well, really well.
but it is still only one map away from Citadel getting into those grand finals. This is a sign of life from Virtus Pro. They need to try something different, and it looks like duelist bans did seem to be the case, but now it's Citadel's map choice, with the option to take us back to domination or convoy if they want to. They have full openness available for the map, and we'll be finding out where they go after this short break.
I want your soul! Hell unleashed!
Still 2-1 in favour of Citadel Gaming, but Virtus Pro making this a bit more of a closer series. The map pool is now open for Chop to choose any game mode that they like, so long as it's not a map that we've just seen. And we are going to Domination and to Hell's Heaven.
Going for a bit more of a brawl. This is what we saw some incredible performances from Citadel in the past, and this is one of the maps where they've had the most success historically. They love playing stuff that rushes the backline. There are so many points, especially on Super Soldier Factory as an example, where if he gets a let through, Captain America, for example, could absolutely bully strategists who are just trying to take some cover so that they can get some healing output. So the question is, how do Virtus Pro approach the ban phase? They have so far banned out Vanguards one game, they've banned out strategists a little bit, they've banned out all duelists one game. How do you adjust here?
Seeing how this is going to go, Virtus Pro might have found an answer to the flexibility that Citadel Gaming have shown. Because if you typically are wanting to play 2-2-2, you need specific duelists in mind. But the double Ultron ban, I think it's the first time, Tetra, that we've seen both teams this series actually ban out something that is moderately different from each other. Well, not moderately different.
Well, not moderately different so far. We see the Ultron banned out, Fires teasing us with a blade, which has actually been played a little bit in other regions. We also saw some Iron Fist earlier on in Asia today. Reminder that Asia also have their playoff finals tomorrow, as do OCE, so make sure to check that out. There'll be some fun games. We've already had our first qualifier from Asia. But now we see the Jeff going to be protected by Virtus Pro, going to get themselves a little bit of Fire Shark action.
I can imagine that with the Ultron being banned out, that it would be a good protect for Citadel Gaming too. There's so much like environmental hazards that you can use as Jeff to just spit people off the side of all of the points pretty much. But are they going to go for something a little bit different in their approach? Virtus Pro, yeah, it's going to be the Jeff Protect, so it's going to be available on both sides. But this is where Virtus Pro started going for the Jean Grey, the Psylocke, and of course, who was it else that they were going for that they were trying to take out as an offensive option?
Jean Grey, Psylocke, and Star-Lord. Yes, they left the Torch up, as we did see them swap from Torch to Namor after a little bit. We're going to see that Jean Grey. We're starting again.
It means that it does kind of like limit some of the options as well. Certainly, they can go for some of the other things as well for duelist options. They'll give because I'll play Magic earlier, so they can play it. But it is like, how do we get the most out of team ups and synergy with other players? And if you could force Citadel Gaming to be exclusively on like Hulk Namor, it's a good team up. But I don't know if it's a team up that you build your comp around every single time.
But is that going to be the case? We did see Citadel just show how strong it can be.
Psylocke.
The fact is, Virtus Pro still won. Psylocke protection. This gives Citadel finally something a little bit safer here. They prevented Virtus Pro from getting an Invisible Woman, which could have been a great defense against stuff like that Darts and the Butterfly, as one Invisible Boundary can counter it, and two, Guardian Barrier can sometimes be a great counter to Darts and the Butterfly. So pretty solid draft reaction from Citadel, forcing Virtus Pro to pivot a little as they ban out the EMEA and secure it one-sided.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as one-dimensional with banning out an entire role. Certainly with the Psylocke being protected, it might force Virtus Pro to pivot towards another direction. So you're not going to get that one-sided Jeff. It's going to be available for both, but a one-sided EMEA is going to work out nicely. And in fact, a Jean Grey ban right at the end means that we're going to see like that Psylocke being protected from Citadel, so they have some offensive option if it's going to be Melee or Tanuki playing it in particular. But they don't have that access to the Emma Frost, so that team up is not available to them.
So not going to be able to go for the clones for the extra burst damage. They're going to have to react a little bit differently. Fire's once again teasing us in the draft phase. Not likely going to be locking in Spider-Man for the actual rollout. Or that, gonna be honest. It is possible. We have seen a touch of Scarlet Witch from some players, especially in Stage 1. Thank you, Craggy. But in this case, unlikely. You're able to dual backlines a little bit, but it's just a riskier pick these days. We're more likely to expect stuff like potentially a Torch, potentially a Psylocke of their own, to try and duel onto a little bit of those backline divers.
It does feel like there is an element of like sort of Venom being locked in as well. Psylocke is good for that kind of dive. Captain America as well with Poly. So it's the Poly-Pokey combination potentially for Citadel, just without the Pokey. He has to sort of sit on the sidelines for now until he gets brought in for whichever game modes and plan Citadel want to use him for. But they do ban out the Invisible Woman, which means that those dives should be a little bit easier. But a one-sided Star-Lord and Emma for Virtus Pro, you can't ignore it. It might be a good chance for them to come back into this one on domination. But for Citadel Gaming, waiting in the wings for a portal play off the rip.
See if they can get a pickup. They're trying to chase down onto Sparker, who's been forced to dash away. And they once again started with Magic. Tanuki bringing that out. They've got Enzo, so they've got the Chains of Sidorak, and they also have Captain America instead of Angela this time to help them dive that backline. Hyper-aggression for Citadel and the Zootopia backline.
Yeah, it is just the animals in the backline causing chaos. More so to just allow hypermobility, to allow a bit more dive, and the Venoms are going to be leading the line, at least for one side, as Polly is going to be on the Captain America, Enzo not going to be on the Venom as he went for the strange portal play. And, well, this is one of the reasons why we saw the likes of Citadel Gaming qualifying for Atlanta in the first place. The cap has been unleashed.
The cap has been unleashed. A Captain America for an American land. being played by our favorite EMEA player. Tanuki, though, also adding to this extra burst. Citadel, they just revert back to what worked so well in the earlier game. And Virtus Pro, they've also gone for a Jeff and a Rocket backline, which is really good healing output on a multiple grouped up people. Problem is, the burst is a little bit weaker if you do not land those direct hits with those Rocket healing balls.
Almost at the point, it seemed that Citadel Gaming weren't going to try and rotate to deal with whoever was going to dive on it from VP, but there could be multiple characters with how mobile they are. The fight is going to go in for the chasers. Magic has now found themselves between a rock and a hard place, and Jeff is going to eat them up for a snack. Eye Vagabond was used from Enzo. I don't think there was much when it came to the CC and stuns, but he's going to be picked up, spat out, and thrown into the fire as Dredro sort of turns things around, finding that pick over onto Melio and then catching Enzo. Still not in control of the objective.
Cosmic Yarn Amplifier is taken out. Melio going to try and make something happen with a Dance of the Butterflies, but they are extremely outnumbered. That is going to be Tanuki taken down, who went to Iron Fist, by the way. We summoned it. Say his name and they will appear. It's not Joe Hendry, it's Iron Fist. As Citadel are forced off the point. Virtus Pro getting the flip at 52.
Still going to try and go for it. Really is just a case of, because there's so many divey characters, that if you can isolate them, you win those 1v1s as these characters. But it's nice to see it, better late than never. Certainly when we have some of the stuff around Kung Lung showing up for Iron Fist very, very soon. It is Tanuki seeing exactly where he can get these fights in, looking to see where Saipe is and where the Be Right Back is. It is going to be picked up and moved for Saipe, so now he wants to try and get out to safety. If a pick comes in for Citadel, that's probably going to be sent back to spawn.
Tanuki being forced to back up, though, a little bit outnumbered. Here comes the freedom charge for Polly, but with Alex already down, they're fighting this into a 5 versus 6, but they're still trying to make stuff happen. Tanuki is heavy in the backline, tries to deflect through, but again is just falling short of picking up Saipe, who escapes. Tanuki falls to Pi, who chases them down. Galactic Legend for just one is going to be worth it when it's a character that can have such an impact as Sparker takes out Melio with the help of Nevix.
Be Right Back is not really going to find as much value because Citadel is so far away from this engagement. 52% on the board against 69 now. So it's been nice for Virtus Pro. They have a lot of offensive capabilities now with their own Dance of the Butterflies. And you don't really have to worry about like the fate of both worlds. Any strategist ultimates to keep things alive as this goes in. But Sparker just missed, or Melio was able to dash out. At least he's able to get the elimination afterwards, but Polly gets the revenge.
Barker goes down. This is a 1-for-1. It's Jeff used defensively, not going to catch anyone, not worth the risk. So just making sure you're in a safe position. Tanuki's in the backline with the living Chi. There is a diamond form Emma preventing any damage. Is Jeff forced to be used for extra healing? And Tanuki is once again finding themselves a little bit isolated here. Not able to find a lot of value out of this so far. Remember, this is a pre-rework onto that Iron Fist where they get even more percentage damage. So try to make the most of it and focus onto that backline. Ken falls to Fincy and does the butterfly. Melio cancelling it early after taking out Dredro.
I mean, you say that Tanuki didn't get much value, but he did force out Dredro with the It's Jeff. So now it should be a cleanup in favor of Citadel Gaming, as there's not too much to rely on for Virtus Pro to keep the numbers alive. And I guess for Citadel Gaming too, because you don't have like Invisible Boundary, etc. You're going for the Rocket Raccoon Jeff. Having the Captain America Polly, like the Freedom Charge, feels that you have a little bit more sustain as and when you need it. Something that Virtus Pro are not going for themselves with the Emma Frost Venom.
It's essentially a third strategist ultimate, giving yourself a lot of extra sustain. They could give themselves some extra healing here if they did want to swap one of the strategists onto an Emma, into a Luna Snow, to give Tanuki that a little bit of extra healing output. But they're not going to do that here. They need to make sure that they have the AoE healing output, and that BRB is just a little bit too valuable, as is, of course, the symbolic shenanigans.
I do want to keep an eye on Tanuki. It's going to be a good VOD to watch in the background, not only to see some Iron Fist action, but more so that he's on a different game mode. It's like trying to catch the golden snitch. He's going into the backline to see if he can just keep harassing where Saipe's playing from. Now his focus is just getting rid of the Yarn Amplifier. And again, now it's seeing if he can catch somebody just in the wings. Unfortunately, though, the other duelist has gone down as it's hit 99% of both sides. Still fighting for the first point of both of these two teams, but Virtus Pro have flipped it back into their favor. It's Jeff is going to try and grab and kidnap Saipe, maybe spit him off the map, maybe take him off together, because you know that he has got the mobility to jump out. Unfortunately, Saipe isn't going to be able to be in that fight, and the Iron Fist is going to clean up house.
trying to chase down Jeff, which was able to get their own teammate to get a little bit of extra sustain to give them a little bit of bonus health. And Drindro forced to go on the run, but the Iron Fist is relentless. It's fish versus martial arts, and the answer will eventually come down to the fact that someone wasn't standing on the point, as Virtus Pro are able to take the first round.
I'm very much expecting a call from Peter after just witnessing that brutality against the land shark. But it's the fact, Jeff's fine. He took it head on. He pretty much took it at face level. Pretty much, yeah. Like, it's just, he's just a shark. He's just a little guy. No need to take it out offensively. But whilst it would be nice to see a little bit more Iron Fist action, because Tanuki's just thinking of the cerebral positioning play, stopping those supports really do much at all when you're playing the Rocket Raccoon and the Jeff, is going to go over towards playing that Uki. I thought there might be a bit of a team up between the Winter Soldier and Captain America there, but Polly actually switching over to play Magneto.
Going for a little bit of extra sustain onto the point. They're just going to hyper carry Melio or Tanuki to make sure they have as much protection as possible. They did, of course, have access to that Luna and Invisible Woman, but they still went with that little bit of extra speed boost from the Jeff. And as such, Citadel Gaming, they are going over to what is a pretty solid Season 1 draft, if we go back in time quite a bit here. Namor, a little bit of Hulk. Of course, the Winter Soldier was the most powerful they have been up until probably now in Stage 1. So, sorry, in Season 1. So, Citadel Gaming going a little bit back in time, but something a little bit more stable as opposed to that Iron Fist and the Jeff Rocket backline.
The diver's in, it forces out the shields from the Hulk, but that's exactly when Sparker's going to strike with the Dance of the Butterflies. Vinci finds himself too, so it is a 4v6 in favor of Virtus Pro. In fact, Citadel just giving this up completely, jumping off the map, not giving too much ult charge on the second point. But it doesn't matter too much. Finzi has been able to farm up that Silent Seduction.
It's reset time. Finzi with Silent Seduction, like you say. Citadel Gaming, they've already built up, though, to Kraken Impact and the other fish-based ultimate in the form of the Horde of Proteus. The question is, what's the setup for that? They're kind of reliant on the crowd control being a slow from Ken, potentially, with a visible boundary, a little bit of a knockback from Polly, or, of course, the stuns from Enzo. Let's see what they come in here with. The Silent Seduction going to be dropped as the early engage. The shielding from the Hulk is trying to buy time, but it's going to be Sparker who just resets through the fight over and over again.
Finzi being able to launch himself, I assume with the jump cookie from Rocket Raccoon, because Finzi just leaps in with the Silent Seduction pretty much into a small alcove at the same time that Sparker hits. That coordination. We're not typically used to seeing that much dive out of Virtus Pro, I would say, but these guys have been playing together for so long. They know all of the characters they need to play, and they're so well coordinated. I'm excited to see a little bit more, because Sparker Psylocke on these domination maps has been the winning condition for them.
Let's see if they can continue to make it work. As Sparker's building up towards an ultimate as well. They're going to burn the Feast of the Abyss early here. And the Soul Bond, not enough to sustain Ken, as once again they've adjusted their composition. Drindro just going to be taking them off the edge. See you later. Virtus Pro keeping control. That is a quadruple. Enzo barely staying up. They were staggered as well. This is just Virtus Pro. I don't know what to say about this. This is just dominance.
It's really good from them. I think it's like 4-2 total on this map, 6-4 for Citadel, so it's a decent map for them. High win rate, but not really super dominant in the domination game mode of Hell's Heaven. And it could be Virtus Pro taking this map at least 2-0. You got the portal play forced out quite early from Polly. Fate of both worlds, as Alex has had to switch away from one animal to a whole different beast with the Lunar Snow. And at least finally, the strategists are able to find a little bit more as Melio switched over to that Adam Warlock. Taking the point now, it is 0% to 99, but they do have a camera revival in the back pocket after they've used this portal.
It's about the best possible chance that Citadel could have got this flip. Obviously, it's on the overtime, but they've set themselves up with basically all of their ultimates except for Meteor M. They're very close to Aya Magamoto. They have the Karmic Revival. They have its Jeff. They have Kraken Impact. They can give for resets, and more importantly, they can stagger these, meaning that they will have at least a couple time over time. Silent Seduction is going to come out. First one to be used here is going to be Fate of Both Worlds, but also it's Jeff doubling up on those big defensive ultimates, and they don't even get anyone on the retreat here. Ken just uses it defensively. I think there might have been a miscommunication here, Ryan.
Seems so, and Vi doesn't need to be told twice that this is the chance to strike. In fact, the ultimates have been stacked on the offensive side as the Duelist of Galactic Legend and a Dance of the Butterfly front in, but the Karma Revival was used from Melio. Everybody's brought back, and there's enough bodies to go and fight this, but in that time, Virtus Pro have actually taken the objective. It's back to them being in 99%, so Citadel have to retake this if they want this to continue, and the fact that this fight goes on a little bit longer is only going to help Virtus Pro.
Overtime's taking down, and Tanuki's not fighting on the point, leaving it to the front line, but the front line's getting melted. If they don't step up, it could be over. People are just dancing back and forth. Shark sniped on the side, Tanuki with the pickup there, and finally it looks like Citadel maybe want to turn this around as Fincy gets one more counter duel. The point has still not been flipped. Finally, Citadel get the freedom.
Oh, but it's not looking like it was done and dusted from Virtus Pro. They ever be right back. Just brought back Fincy, and the two duelists were ready to go in on the dive to contest it a bit more. But like I said, because Virtus Pro took control of the point whilst that Camera Revival came through for Melio, it means that Citadel Gaming could have been at like 90-95% at this point. Now they still have to churn this through, and they don't have those big ultimates nor a portal to rely on.
Fincy was dropped extremely low there, but is able to tank through. And once again, the point is ticking up for Virtus Pro because Citadel are only just funneling back in. They had to keep dancing on and off the point. Meteor M to try and take something. Fincy doesn't have diamond form, but looked for anyone else, finds nothing, was looking for anyone on the flank. It's right now, it's up to Tanuki as the side introduction comes on out. Alex and Ken both have ultimate, but Melio falls down first, and again they layer the ultimates together to try and grab something. But if they are able to get any of those backline members, or at least keep everyone topped up, they may be able to at least turn this fight around. Counter is Jeff into a Kraken impact to try and burst down the fish, but he escapes. Drindro gets away with it. Tanuki is taken down with the face from the abyss, and it looks like this is going to be a Virtus Pro evening up the score.
There's no portal. Polly is not switching over, so the wick is going to burn completely for free for Virtus Pro. There might be just a grab for Melio to try to get something on the board, but a domination map win for Virtus Pro, clawing this back to a full best of 5. And I think there's probably a clean map choice, I think, for Citadel to take us to Araco. No?
No, I agree. Araco seems to be a good choice. It seems to be where Virtus Pro have struggled the most. And we're back here again, Ryan. For the third time in Ignite history, we are at map number 5 between Citadel Gaming and Virtus Pro. Shades of the past, Berber Patapim appears in everyone's minds as we come down to the final map. 13 final hits for Sparker, but 12 for Fincy, who just dominated on that Emma.
And has it for one side and one side only. The character is seemingly the strongest Vanguard in the game currently, but obviously stuff can change in the future. Certainly when you look at like the Psylocke stocks, they could go up, certainly with the changes in the future for Season 4 and beyond. But the way that this turned out, just seeing a little bit more of this like 2-2-2 setup with the Jeff and the Rocket Raccoon, both teams playing it, try to outmaneuver each other, and even just the mind games of Tanuki going over onto the Iron Fist to just make sure that he can keep up with the mobility that both a Rocket and a Jeff have in that backline.
They were trying to make something happen. The Iron Fist, for example, just did not chase them down with the Soldier returns to make that happen. Dritto with the 4-piece, and look at that. Very important as well to notice that they didn't just get a 4-piece and run off to get the quadruple point. Their team had control, so being able to play Jeff, you have a duration on that eat. Every second you hold them, if you're planning on going down as well, is another second that multiple people aren't on the map.
Pretty much, yeah. It seemed that it was just using the time, thinking about these whole engagements as not just the fights and the eliminations themselves, but how you can really punish them for just a couple more % on the board. And the fact, you know, Virtus Pro taking the switch just before that Camera Revival, that was a big moment for them. And now they're building that confidence. It seemed like even in that phase when they were down 2-0 in that best of 5 in the group stages, once they worked out what they wanted to do with the drafts, that's where they really started to come online. And so Citadel now actually put through their paces of how they want to draft for this next map.
I'm not a car guy, but I have an analogy here of it seems to be like a classic car. Sometimes it takes a bit to get warmed up, to get going, but once it's going like that, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's majestic, and that's what we're seeing from Virtus Pro here. They just seem to have full control over this series, and it's now Citadel completely flipping from where we were, who are on the back foot. But it comes down to this. Winner goes to the grand finals, loser will head down to those lower bracket finals. They're all guaranteed for Atlanta, but we need to find out who who is set up to potentially become that EMEA champion. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this. We are back where we have been multiple times before. Virtus Pro and Citadel sitting at 2-2. This is where we are used to being. It's comforting. It's like a warm hug. But if there was significantly more violence and incredible esports plays in it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't ask what the maps were, but we had a suspicion, I suppose, in like looking at Araco, because that was the final map the last time that these two teams played. Midtown was the other time that we saw it in play. So it is pretty much all of the maps outside of the first one, Celestial Husk, wasn't it? Previously it was Krakoa, which was back when Celestial Husk wasn't a map. Otherwise, it has been, if this is going to be Araco, it's the same 5 maps that we typically see in this kind of setup, just in a bit of a different order.
The question is, will they be going down that route, or are they going to go with something a little bit more flexible? Of course, there are other convoy maps, and they could even go for a convergence if they wanted to instead of just a convoy. We've still got stuff like Yggdrasil Path available. We're about to find out as we're heading into map number 5 of 5, and it is going to be Yggdrasil Path.
A map that has looked very good for Virtus Pro in their entire history. In fact, Yggdrasil is a map that I'm pretty sure they've maybe never lost on. I think it's completely undefeated, and I only feel that they've played it like 2-3 times in Ignite. We've seen it a lot, but that's typically from like the MRCs and even like third-party tournaments and the Invitational. But Yggdrasil is a map for Virtus Pro in the, it seems about right, the 56 maps that they've played so far in Ignite Stage 1 and 2, they've only played this map twice and won it twice.
Yeah, it's not really been something they've struggled with as of yet. I'm literally just going back through their Ignite Stage 2 games at least. But yeah, they beat Alcacia on it. They beat, so far, at least in Stage 2, Virtus Pro don't seem to have lost as of yet. And once again, they are teasing us with a Mr. Fantastic, although he has actually seen some play in some of the regions, including this one. But Virtus Pro, they are starting us off with an early Jean Grey ban out this time.
Yeah, I'm just checking it. Like, Yggdrasil was played only once. That was a win against C10. So it is only 3 times total that they played. Once, twice. Yeah, I think this is a map that Virtus Pro have never lost on. So if Citadel Gaming want to actually win this series and go to the finals as the upper seed, I suppose, they have to do something that a team has never managed to do. And they chose this.
Yeah, they made their choice. They had the option of Morocco. They decided against it, sticking with Yggdrasil instead. This is, of course, a quite long map. There are some great positions for some really good .1 holds. Visible Woman secured by Virtus Pro for the first time in a while. It's been banned out repeatedly against them. Citadel, they've taken away Virtus Pro's Adam Warlock, though. They've taken away the Ultron here. They really seem to be trying to target Fire and Sparker so far in terms of those third strategists, taking a lot of them out. Virtus Pro, though, they've already locked in that Jeff.
Is the EMEA one-sidedness for Citadel Gaming something that they pretty much have been keen to do as much as they possibly can? No matter the game mode, really, isn't just a convoy, but it seems to work very well here. And then the Jeff Protect right at the end means that it is going to be Jeff either side, but maybe another duelist option to be taken out. No, the Groot, which again makes sense, something that we saw from VP earlier back on Midtown.
Groot being prioritized over a Doctor Strange as an example. Reinforcements after losing that first point, after losing the first fight on the point, can be extremely viable. But in this case, taking it out just due to how insane Citadel Gaming have been on the Groot and to secure it on a single side. Virtus Pro, they have been much more comfortable this stage on 2-2-2s as opposed to a triple strategist lineup. But this is something they're going to have to adjust to here. And they do have a lot of those comfort picks. Dridro has played a lot of Jeff this stage. Sparker has played a lot of Rocket. They are pretty safe with what they got here. And of course, Saipe has played a lot of Invisible Woman.
Yeah, there's so much going on with these drafts in themselves. You could have analysts and coaches and certainly people like Moxie breaking these down for an hour at most, because it is just how frequently stuff hasn't been respected on either side. Having the one-sided Adam, a one-sided Mantis, a one-sided Star-Lord and Jean Grey, because that's what Virtus Pro have been going with. But that adjustment in the draft itself has really opened up the game for them. And that's what they want. They want to bring people down to their level of playing as wide and open with the compositions as possible, because not many teams can match them. Citadel have to win on Yggdrasil against Virtus Pro for the first time ever. VP holding on to try to make an upper bracket final in this playoffs.
Starting off on the Punisher instead of the Moon Knight to just try and burn through single targets to set off that BRB early. And Melio is playing aggressive here, trying to make something happen with the shotgun, piling on the pressure, but it's actually Polly who's nearly taken out first. But so far, no blood has been spilled. They're trying to make their way onto the point, seeing if they can target down Fincy, who's forced to use that magnetic curtain and retreat towards the rest of the team. That Invisible Woman of Cypher is doing some absolutely insane work. Melio takes to the sky to try and find the right angle here, but no one's going down yet. It's Jeff comes on in. BRB gonna be Saber. Dridro, a second 4-man in 2 games and takes them all out.
He goes down with them, who's just at the nick of time managing to spit them down into the abyss. But Citadel forced to fully wipe, so Virtus Pro still have control of the objective. A minute has passed. You have an invisible boundary sat, Strangling Prison. You're set up with this free composition that really they were the ones for Virtus Pro that took this and really ran with it to its long gone conclusion. Melio with a final judgment now, especially off the back of Fire being taken out. This might be a great chance to try to pick up this pace, because you have to be right back bringing it to a 6v6. An invisible boundary and Meteor M both used to mitigate the damage and shroud these defenders of VP.
Melio can't find any targets, but the Eye of Agamotto will. That is Melio Melio capitalizing with that Omega Hurricane chasing down Rocket, and that is a routing here. And Citadel dropping it quite close to that first corner. They're going to get some huge distance off this. 3 bodies on the point, and a counter portal coming in from Enzo to try and stop Nevix.
Yeah, Nevix actually swapped over towards the Strange first because Fire was still respawning. He's gone over towards the Torch. The portal, it's been interrupted. It must have done. There's no chance, I think, for Virtus Pro. They've had to switch over towards Nevix. That's had to slide and dive in. We have to definitely see that in the replay later of how Enzo managed to interrupt that one.
Yeah, we need to see the view from Fincy, to see a view from Fincy or Nevix, whoever was on the Strange, to see how they were interrupted. Nevix getting locked down, at least for the moment. The BRB brings back Fincy to contest onto the point. Cosmic Yard Amplifier is going to be popped very quickly. Melio targeted down, but Fire goes down in the exchange. Both the damage dealers taken out. It's Jeff's traded onto the point. It's going to be a 1-for-1 once again, trying to escape. Dridro dropped low, chased down. Ken was able to take out Saipe though.
Yeah, just from the dot damage of being inside the stomach of Dridro. The Virtus Pro, even with the portal play not working out because Citadel Gaming dedicated theirs to try to interrupt it, they've actually held it. 1 minute left for Citadel Gaming to push this beyond. Last time, they had multiple ultimates. As soon as they got them, they used them, tried to cycle them to get this to snowball. But now, Tetcher, they don't have anything at hand.
And Virtus Pro, though, they don't have as much tankiness as before with Fire on the Star-Lord. They are now on a 2-1-3 setup. But Nevix taking out Tanuki. Fire is on the flank. They are making it happen, pushing them all the way back to spawn. If they can't touch the point, they can't get overtime. Melio decides that the time is down to pull the trigger with that final judgment and push on through. The overwhelming damage is good with another Eye of Agamotto to set this up. And right now, Enzo and Melio are in beautiful sync and are keeping this game alive.
I took a lot of damage to break through the invisible boundary and also the freedom charge on top of each other. Fido in the sky trying to fight from distance. He's got a pick actually. Tanuki goes down as everybody's trying to be picked up. He bided his time perfectly now, and 10 seconds for Citadel to be able to touch this one. Fi's on the flank. It's going to pull this attention from Citadel in various directions, but they haven't quite hit this point at the checkpoint just yet.
Fire's uncontested. Will get slept though. Forced to retreat. That buys a little bit of time. Going to be teleporting back with that rocket team up. Omega Hurricane onto the point. Jeff Nado to take them down to buy the time. And we see Virtus Pro retreating into the buildings. The cart is 2 meters away. Vinci is forced to flee. They will get melted by Tanuki. The storm is here. The Omega level mutant and a very cute shark burst through the doors to Yggdrasil.
FVP just can't keep the sustain alive enough, and they don't have access to the Adam, so Kamet revivals in these kind of big team fights is just not going to be available for them at all. So Citadel Gaming, there's so many ultimates that can just keep springboarding off of each other. The final judgment took so much to get the picks, and then the Jeff Nado actually able to cut through what Virtus Pro were putting down with that support line, which has changed again. It's the Jeff Rocket going back in for Virtus Pro for a full dive.
They're just going to try and rush the point. They've got Captain America and Venom and Psylocke. They are all in on just hyper-aggression while Fi has the teleport. They have full freedom to flank it and get out with that astral jump. They are just not going to be threatened at all. Okay. Can't say the same for Sparker, though, who gets bodied by Melio.
He's not going to have like stuff like the Ultron drone or the Idolor that's going to keep him alive in those fights. It has to take Virtus Pro's actual strategist to keep him alive in these engagements. Vinci does get brought back with the BRB. You can start to see that defenders are grouping up on either side, trying to take this inside space and even a freedom charge to go for a bit more of a counter-attack. Citadel Gaming have done a good job to get out of this, but there is all a setup for Enzo off the back of another fantastic Eye of Agamotto. 2 people get stunned, 1 gets picked.
Enzo saw the future and they saw one way that Citadel can go through and take this, and it seems to be just putting them on their back. Dridro goes in for it. It's Jeff, not able to find a target, but is able to keep the team topped up. They've taken to the high ground. Omega Hurricane on the point. Jeff Nado is at the ready, and they choose to control the card to keep the objective, and all of the divers are melted.
Combinations working, and throughout all of that, you've got Sparker dedicating a dance to the butterflies. Doesn't cut through onto anybody from Citadel Gaming. Beerbat means that he's going to be brought into position, but Dridro's been taken out. There's not going to be a contest available for VP, so Sparker being brought back into the fight from the BRB wants to just back out completely and not get reset.
The map choice of Citadel, they are now meters away from the world tree. The tree that, if they can get to, could be their key to going into those grand finals. Virtus Pro have got to set up a defense here. They've moved away from the rocket. They brought out the Invisible Woman. Sparker chooses to go for Phoenix. See if they can just get these quick blow-ups and, of course, that AoE and burst through the shields of Alex on that Mantis. Polly, Psionic Seduction from above, catches Groot. The shield from the Invisible Woman is keeping them topped up, though, and it's a retreat out of Virtus Pro, safely able to retreat down the ramp.
So much damage being traded either side. Seeing if they can build up more offensive capabilities. Virtus Pro at least having strategist ultimates to sit back on, and good timing because that final judgment is good to go for Melio. Tends to just be a lot of concentrated fire, and the Groot, the Strangling Prison from Nevix, able to at least clear up onto one of these strategists with the Mantis. Alex having a Soul Resurgence, not a chance to use it.
They just hit everyone, and finally Virtus Pro, it takes a little bit of a chase back to spawn, but they are able to clean up Citadel, stagger the respawns here. But look at Citadel's ultimate economy here. They have Soul Resurgence, they have the It's Jeff, Final Judgment, and Eye of Agamotto, and they'll soon have that Omega Hurricane again, setting up for another Jeff Nado. They only used Polly's ultimate, whereas Virtus Pro, they used the Ensong Inferno and the Strangling Prison. Final Judgment to push on in, trying to melt through Groot in particular, as they're quite far forward and cannot protect themselves.
Is mowing it down. It's Sparker and Nevix, two characters of Jean Grey and Groot that are banned out from Citadel. They're not able to go for the head-to-heads on these particular characters. They have to go for something a little bit different, and the Punisher Storm, usually used to break these first point holds, is continuing on and finding form for Citadel Gaming. You have got it, It's Jeff, if you want to get really into the faces of Virtus Pro. It's going to be used onto the point with the combination of the Omega Hurricane. If there's a touch for Virtus Pro, it's going to be sent straight into the jaws of Jeff and allow Citadel Gaming to get to third with no time left on the clock.
I do want to call out Dredro there for doing something really clever. They knew that their team just got wiped out and there's a Doctor Strange on the other team. They burned It's Jeff to cancel the Doctor Strange portal that would have trapped Virtus Pro in their spawn. It didn't end up working. Virtus Pro was still just zoned out. That Omega Hurricane Jeff Nado combo was too much for them to step onto the point, but that was a really good heads-up play that, even though it didn't end up working, deserves props. They saved their team and at least let them try to contest.
Now, Virtus Pro have to match a map finish. And we don't have the stats to sort of say how often teams are actually able to finish up on the Yggdrasil. But it does feel like there's so many points that Citadel could deadlock this one completely. And as a reminder, even though this isn't a map that we've seen played all that much from Citadel, I mean, it's like 4-0 so far this stage. It is a game mode type, any pure payload. Pretty much 9 of them now. This would be the 10th. It could be 10-0. They have been undefeated on it so far, stage 2.
Will it be enough, though? They have to hold Virtus Pro, who are once again bringing in that Rocket and the Jeff, Star-Lord and Psylocke. This has been a setup that's been working for so many teams throughout the entirety of this stage. Virtus Pro reset to it. Citadel, they are going for the 3 Vanguard, 3 strategist setup, but they've got some aggression here. Polly is back on the cap, will be harassing Virtus Pro's backline.
You have that team up with Emma Frost too, so Magneto is going to be that Vanguard line. Melio alongside Polly on the Captain America. It's going to lose out on another strategist. In fact, all of them are going to go down on its defense. And Nevix and Sparker, every one of these VP players diving in on the action and winning an incredibly clean and fast fight. It is going to force, actually, I think, Melio to be over onto the straight you got for a portal play this early on.
I don't have to. You just got absolutely stomped. There's so much distance that could be made from Virtus Pro, and if you let them take that first point too quickly, then you're just going to run out of time. They portal just quite far forward. They don't want to go directly onto the point, and they don't want to get caught by that. Sneaky counter portal does come in, but they're able to evade it, and we do see the swap off there. They started on the strange to see if they could catch anyone, found no one, then swapped off it to reinforce their team.
Well, the spawn isn't too far away, but also I think I was wondering why Melio threw out that portal as quick as he possibly could, and I think that's because it was scouted out that there was going to be this anti-portal play. He just wanted to get it done and out and have everybody through it before the trap door could be placed. But it doesn't matter too much. Virtus Pro is still winning out these fights, and the picks are just so well strung together. Citadel Gaming, they get back into this engagement, and suddenly that's 2 team wipes that they've been on the back end of.
Yeah, Virtus Pro just absolutely once again completely dismantling Citadel when Citadel try to defend. There's an Eye of Agamotto available for Melio, and you can see they are running in. They think they might be able to touch this, but who's going to be the one to do it? They could have Tanuki dash in, they could potentially have Ken speed bubble in, but they are running out. It's going to be Polly, who once again on Captain America is forced to touch the point. But in the meantime, Fi is in the backline.
Eye of Agamotto from Melio doesn't catch on to anything. It wasn't interrupted either because it's fully 0%. Citadel Gaming throwing 3 ultimates all together. You've got the Yarn Amplifier that could also really allow them to survive. Here's the Galactic Legend is going to be a threat, but not a lethal one. There goes the Rocket Raccoon ultimate as the Freedom Charge for Fincy is also going to allow Virtus Pro a chance to fight on and beyond this. They haven't taken the first checkpoint, even though you'd think so with how far forward this fight was going for Fi. But it's still held on for Citadel Gaming. Scrappy, tenacious. They don't want to give up this, and if they have to, they're going to buy as much time as possible. It's Jeff grabbing enough players, Enzo being one of them. He's taken away, but protected from that Vanguard lineup, and they're still holding on with a minute left, Tetcher.
Ridro once again trying to put the team on their back with that. It's Jeff to sneak them off here. Dancing the Butterflies is going to be absorbed, at least for now. Melio dropping low. Tanuki is trying to heal from down range as Fi continues to fight on the pressure. Sparker falls. Melio is still tanking this. He's still holding after that last reinforcement. He's building up towards another Eye of Agamotto here. Steps off the point riskily to try and protect their team, to try and get onto Fincy, to buy time Cypher with their own CM though. Here comes it, it's Jeff into the backline to buy some extra, try and catch someone, but it is sidestepped.
It's dodged, but you got Enzo that's going to be leaping forward as a projectile, as another body to stall as the Wolverine. So it's a little bit more all up in the air, trying to cut through the amount of Vanguards that have placed themselves on this point. Now with 15 seconds left, this could be Virtus Pro losing on Yggdrasil for the first time, and Citadel continuing that convoy domination. The ultimate, the last stand, is going to make sure that Fi is taken down, but the Be Right Back is going to bring him straight into this engagement. There's a lack of numbers for Virtus Pro, but they're still fighting as overtime hits.
Ridro, it's Jeff to try and remove the defenders, to try and give them that extra time. Down goes Fi, but Ridro is heading to the edge to buy him time. They get back onto the point. Enzo keeps holding, keeps onto this delay. It's Shark versus Wolverine, but the Shark is apparently the natural predator. Sparker moving into the backline to try and take out the strategist as Virtus Pro are still trying to break this. Dance of the Butterfly in the backline. It's Jeff to take out the attackers this time. Finds Venom to buy some time. Ken is just going to take them off, removing all that sustain. Could be exactly what they need. Takes them off, but they survive as well. No one's going down here, Ryan. The extra healing from Ken from down range as the reinforcements coming in the hands of Polly to buy extra time. It's a triple for Virtus Pro, and they might have finally done it in overtime. Citadel will be broken.
Still the rest of the map to travel for VP, but you've given yourself 2.5 minutes extra. Citadel Gaming just didn't find enough to fight in onto the point because Citadel Gaming moved away from that Storm. That Sharknado combination wasn't really that useful. You've got Ken trying to get these catches onto Nevix but couldn't do it. But on the flip side, Dredro wasn't able to catch onto Enzo. Now Ken switched over towards the Adam. As a reminder, it's available for Citadel. It isn't for Virtus Pro. That camera revival could be big for them because there's no chance for Virtus to counter it or copy it.
So how do Virtus Pro deal with this? Right now, they just keep the pressure on. Sparker drops incredibly low, will get taken down and brought back at the BRB, but that means there's no revive available for Dredro as Enzo was able to catch them on the flank. Melio trying to deal with the fact that Virtus Pro are still just trying to wrap around on that left-hand side, but is able to catch them and force them back towards spawn. Also finding the flanking Captain America right now. Citadel are just on flank watch.
That's better.
It's only really buying time. Finzy's going to use the freedom charge. Immediately, the priority for Melio is like, okay, if you actually want to go and fight this and stall this, I'm just going to go for your backline. Cypher gets completely left out as the Apex Predator is going to completely chew him up and spit him out. Speaking of which, Dreedro is going to bring in It's Jeff to see if he can catch on to somebody. But I think, honestly, it was to just grab Ken, pull him out. Was that just in time? Yeah, he doesn't have the camera revival, so it wasn't as clutch as it could have seemed. But this is just a death match on the point now, Tetra. It's just an all-out brawl.
The Fi is once again playing this Star-Lord with just not enough to contest them yet, creating so much work, so much effort. Here comes the It's Jeff, will grab Captain America, and is immediately just going to get blasted.
Fi now, see if he can continue this on. Ken gets taken out, but he has got the life cocoon. If he does get dove, Melio is there ready to peel, but that position has been given up. And look just how much this is flooding through from Virtus Pro. The waterfall is coming from various angles, and it's a deep plunge in as I think it was Nevix that tried to dive in all that way towards the defender spot to try and cut them off. Even the Dance of the Butterflies, that could bite Virtus Pro in the backside because it's found very little, and we're going back into OT in 10 seconds.
Picard Amplifier to buy extra seconds to keep Virtus Pro on this point. Citadel, they're getting staggered, they're getting zoned. This is Virtus Pro playing very split, but it is working. Melio's able to get some work done though. Ken with the revive. Counter portal from Finzy to try and block off the reinforcements from Citadel, but they're finding a way round. They're coming back in. The revive brings back even more, but Fi is once again uncontested. The dominator of the sky takes down the defenders, and Virtus Pro are heading into point 2.
Is there going to be an actual fight here? You don't need to stall for time much more for Citadel, and in fact you forced out a good amount of ultimates. That this could be a little bit tricky for the defenders too, because they're going to be staggered. You've got the freedom charge for Polly. Citadel are going for this.
It's Jeff, finds Adam, takes them away. There's no revive, but it's going to be enough to take them out of the fight, at least for the moment. But this is giving time for Enzo to portal back in for the rest of the team, which means if we do lose that Adam, Kane actually takes down Dritro. Ayamagamoto for the zone. Fincy creating space here. The portal is used as a retreat, but that card is 70 centimeters away on the point. Here comes Melio with Kraken Impact building up at 80%, but they got to stay up as here comes the Feast of the Abyss to chop them through. Sparker finished the job and continues to melt through the defenders. There's nothing left. Polly is buying every second they can, but they cannot maintain.
They're still fighting. Oh, because they got the old spawns. It's just too risky for them to try to escape. They're just going to try and reset as fast as possible. That was both maybe resetting the characters that you're on too. Now Tanuki is going to be on that Jeff. Ken is over on the Adam. Polly still keeping on that Captain America, but Virtus Pro now, a minute is separating them from that grand finals, or whether it's going to be a losers bracket game tomorrow to start themselves off, a potential warm-up for them, depending on how the series after this one goes. But there, the Dance of the Butterflies is going to allow Sparker a bit of room to breathe, to spread the wings, and he catches and clips them for Tanuki. He goes down, and it seems to be just full resets again for Citadel Gaming. They're buying a bit more time, but it's all down to one final potential engagement.
They are going to have Karmic Revival for it. Melio falls once again. Is it worth potentially bringing out the Storm to try and just clean them up off the point one more time with that Jeff Nader that worked so well earlier? But if they do, Fi and Sparker may just be able to hunt them down, as the duels we've been seeing from Fi have been unmatched so far this game. Here they come onto the last point. Galactic Legend, and it's Jeff being burnt out. Fadeable Floods, and it's Jeff once again, since they're layering their ultimates together. Can they catch someone? It's going to be the Captain America from Tanuki, but that's Friendly, not finding anything.
Not able to get too much. OT is going to hit for the third and final time on this half. It's whether or not Virtus Pro can keep things moving along. It pretty much is having to finish the map and go again. Citadel Gaming, just one more fight. Even if this goes on a bit longer, even if you lose the numbers, you still have a few more meters to hold.
Ken was taken out. The It's Jeff able to isolate them. Dridro making sure that Adam is having to find a place to revive, which means they're not in the fight as of yet, but here comes that Karmic Revival to keep them going. Melio returns to the fight, and Virtus Pro, they do not have this ability. If someone goes down, they might be able to portal, but that is all they have left as overtime is ticking down. They buy time. BRB brings back Sparker though, but not so lucky for Fires the Dance of the Butterflies in the backline to try and take them down. Alex is melted here. The reinforcement reinforcements for Citadel are running low, but so is the time. Sparker has to get the body on the point because the front line is melted down. Virtus Pro, they're out of time!
They get off of it in the end. There was enough of an overtime fight. But whilst this seems to go the same way each and every time, Citadel Gaming winning out this series best of 5. At the ditch on Convoy, it's dominant for them as a game mode, and Virtus Pro lose on Yggdrasil's path for the first time ever.
And once again, Citadel are the obstacle that continues to hold Virtus Pro back. When will they finally be able to take down this roster? Because they will have to try and find another chance in the grand finals as Citadel make their way there. Virtus Pro head down to that lower bracket.
You gotta say though, for Virtus Pro, it is just these small margins, and you look at the fact of Nevix only going down 7 times, Saipei going down 6 on the Jeff at the end in a 20-minute game. It's crazy how well they were able to survive, and it was crazy to see just how much value the Jeff got on both sides, with both of them protecting it. It really did feel it started to show fruition. Whether it was that team up with the Storm, because the Sharknado was just so good at clearing up the point and stopping the contest, or whether it's just that it's Jeff on its own, throwing people off the map, taking them away from the fight as it's happening. It meant that it was just these overtime scraps that went on for too long, but Convoy for Citadel is just where their bread is buttered, and there's not many teams that can stop them, if any.
And the creativity as well, knowing that they need to break Virtus Pro. The Virtus Pro are also, like them, so sticky on the point when it comes to defending and utilizing Jeff Nado that got weakened a little bit. But the fact is, it removes bodies from the board, which means they can't be healed, which means you can try and... You don't need to out-heal, because if they are inside you, they cannot heal themselves either. Removing bodies, removing healing potential means your cart keeps moving, and Virtus Pro cannot stop you.
It was a hell of a series, and we still have the big one to follow up this on who is going to be the third team behind these two of Citadel and Virtus Pro, on who's actually going to be qualifying. It again feels like Citadel have been very bullish and feeling almost underestimated. But they can't say that Virtus Pro didn't shoot back in that one. It was a close end-to-end kind of series. But also, it wasn't just the mechanics. It wasn't just the brawn. The brains were tested as well in this one.
This was such a cerebral game in general. The bans were different and creative at each map based around the strategies that the teams had planned, both of them literally contesting with each other to see which one could get what they wanted, while also adjusting to the individual maps in general. We saw, for example, that Symbiotic Surface where Virtus Pro tried to play it a little bit differently with the Vanguard bans. Did get punished for that one, but they were thinking ahead. They were trying to make stuff happen. Citadel, though, they showed just how many options they had. Some were successful, like the Angela, some were Iron Fist.
I mean, the Iron Fist had his moments. I don't think there was any character that looked like it went wrong. And to be fair, I think for both teams, we didn't really see that many mistakes. Certainly from VP, like we've seen a couple of moments where they look a little bit iffy, and Citadel can look like they're sort of falling away on some of these defenses where they could just get snowballed into losing a second point very quickly and stuff. Felt that this was like both teams showing their strongest elements. It was just some minor moments and some brilliant individual plays that separates them.
A lot of it also came down to just timing of ultimates in those ending fights. You mentioned there weren't that many mistakes made by either team. We did see a couple times where some ultimates were layered, but the fact is, sometimes it did work out. While Tanuki and Ken did not, Ken did not find as many massively impactful it's Jeff's as, say, for example, Dredro did. They were still creating space for their team in those fights. They kept the healing output going. Melio, what a pickup for this team. The flexibility from them on stuff like the Adam, on stuff like the Punisher, on stuff basically anything the team needs has been a godsend.
Yeah, and you still have the likes of Pokey that can still be showing up in the future and such too. Like, it does feel like Tanuki and Melio not afraid to be flexible with going on to different roles or playing characters like Black Panther and Iron Fist. It just provides Citadel the opportunities and the versatility to deal with stuff like what we saw from Virtus Pro's draft, which was inspired. It just definitely needs a little bit more of a focus in some of those areas, because I think the last couple of drafts started to become a little bit more like open instead of focusing on just the duelists and stuff. But it's not as if that was the reason alone.
the draft definitely evolved as a actual battle between the teams as opposed to a here is what is meta, here's what we prefer on this map. This very much became very personal extremely quickly of attempting to work out how to just kneecap your opponent's draft in that way, shape, or form. Either way, Furnace Pro, they make their way down to that lower bracket. They'll be playing against the winner of our next series, which is going to be Na'Vi versus Chopped. While Citadel, once again, for the first time, actually, last time they came through the lower bracket after getting knocked down by Rad, Citadel find themselves waiting in the grand finals of EMEA, looking to try and reclaim their title.
And they're a team that has typically played the most maps and the most series because they keep getting knocked down to those losers brackets. Now they have a bit of a chance to reset and relax, but they know that in that best of 5 lower bracket final before the finals BO7 tomorrow, it's a little bit of a warm-up. So you need to make sure that you hit the ground running because you're the winner of that series that's playing up against you in the finals. They're going to be ready and they're going to certainly be warmed up.
And while we wait to see if we're going to get interviewed, let's talk about this next match that we have coming up. This will decide who plays against Furnace Pro, but also, incredibly importantly, this will decide the minimum of third place team and our third representative for EMEA going to those global finals in Atlanta. And we don't have to talk about it too much. We can save that for the actual match because we do have our interview with Salah, Salah, welcome once again. Good to see you. I feel like we're seeing a lot of each other these days.
Yeah, I see you guys more than I see my mom, so yeah, I guess it's a good thing, you know, if we're winning enough that I get to see you guys that frequently.
I think the main thing that I'd want to say is like they shot back a little bit this series. It was a very close like best of 5. Like what was the biggest like issue with you playing Virtus Pro? Because they brought out some interesting drafts going for your vanguards, going for your duelists. What was the thing that caught you by surprise?
I mean, we're aware of these drafts. First of all, VP does shoot back a little bit. They have good players, like Sparker is good, Sipedrijo are really good, Nevix is good. Like, they're good. I think they did something interesting with the draft. It didn't really work with the first 2 maps. In my opinion, it was also probably shouldn't have worked third. But I think they caught us off guard. Like, the DPS lines were good. I think it did stop us a little bit because we had a lot of other comps in our head, but in that moment I think we struggled a little bit just picking one that made sense, and that's what hurt us more so than like just the bans, because we're not a team you can ban out like that. We're not a team where you can ban the tanks. We're not a team where you can ban the DPSs. Like, we're the most flexible team in the world, in my opinion, or close to it. And I think it was just in that moment we panicked a bit and didn't know what to go. But I think it's one of those things. It's a learning curve. I think as soon as we've played against it once, we know what to do the next time, kinda. So yeah, I think it was good from them. I liked some of what they did. I liked the fact that they changed their ways a bit and they started to, like, when I see VP trying to dive us back, that's always funny. These guys normally play full front to back perfect, so it was fun.
Now, I don't know how much you can tell me about this, because obviously in case you want to use it in the future, but this is your time to justify it, as it might not have been as successful as you guys may have wanted it. What was up with the Iron Fist on Hell's Heaven?
No, I mean, that was just... In our team, we have a rule. Like, we have plans, we have a lot of theory, we have a lot of structure, but we have the rule. If you want to play something, if it feels right, play it. My players are really smart. They're incredibly smart. So if they think something is good in the moment, they just go. And I think that's what he was doing. It obviously didn't work, but I don't think it was so much to do with the Iron Fist necessarily, or that. I think it was just in that moment he thought that could be a good solution, and he tried it.
Because we didn't speak to you in particular yesterday when you qualified against Na'Vi. Like, what was the difference in that qualifying game for you guys? Because all of the other ones were like super close BO5s up against teams like Na'Vi when they were rad, when we're looking back at stage 1. What was it like yesterday that felt so confident because you were able to just breeze through Na'Vi? Trust Me was saying that he got outdrafted. GG's is what he tweeted and stuff. Like, was it just that kind of like experience of, you know, going to mid-season finals and going, we could have done better, like, it's on us? Enzo was saying that, like, it was just us underperforming than us, other teams being better than us. So what was it like yesterday going into that Na'Vi game?
I'm gonna talk my talk a little bit. I said it to you guys that these teams forgot what happened stage 1. A lot of people were very overconfident against us. Some of the things I was hearing from some teams, like, can you imagine that there were 2 to 3 teams that didn't want to scrim us because they expected to play us in the lower bracket. They didn't focus on the on the other side of the bracket. They expected to play against us because they thought Na'Vi would be us, so they refused to practice against us and have a good practice. Everyone was so confident that we weren't a good team, or that we were. I heard a lot of interesting takes from a lot of interesting teams. I think their biggest crime was they underestimated us. They thought that they were better than they were, and they thought we were worse than we were. I wasn't surprised when we 3-0'd them. It was a bit boring, to be honest, but I don't know. I think the biggest difference for us is we're always a team with a lot of potential. We're always a team that can do a lot of things. I think for us, it's time and experience. At VP, we're playing against 4 Overwatch League players, or I think they were Overwatch League or something like this. They're obviously more experienced. I have 17-year-olds. Polly is probably the best player in the world, guys, and he's 17. He's played Fortnite before. It's a very different vibe with us. So I think for us, it's always time. It's always just playing more and more. And once we get to the point where we're confident, you see what happens. Like this time, we didn't have to go for a lower bracket. There was a little bit of trolling against VP, but it was relatively clean, in my opinion. I think it's just that. So yeah, I think for us, the more we play, the more we're together as a team, it's going to get easier and easier for us, to be honest. And yeah, sometimes they're going to shoot back like VP. Most of the time, they're not going to shoot back.
Well, let's hear where the good channel points are. Like you said, you've been doing your research. You know what happened last stage. Let's hear where the good channel points are. Fantasy book us or predict us the remainder of the bracket. We're starting off with Chopped versus Na'Vi to find out our third spot for Atlanta. Winner plays VP, winner plays you. Who's going through each of those?
Ooh, I'm not sure. Chopped are good. I think Chopped are good. I think they have the potential to win. I think if they don't win, based on performance yesterday, like Na'Vi might show up today and just be a good team again, or be a lot better than they were yesterday, is a better way of saying it. They're of course a good team. But based on results yesterday, I think if Chop have good mental, they can win. They can win in a convincing fashion. I think they should have won yesterday. But if you ask me who I want to win, I don't know. I hope both lose. But I think I think Chop can win. I'll say Chop because it's fun. But yeah, I hope it's at least a fun game. It's very nice watching from the upper bracket as they battle out. And it's like first time I get to do that. Last time they got to watch me. Now this time I get to watch them in the lower bracket.
And then out of those of Virtus Pro?
The final thing I want to say, actually, as we sort of say goodbye to you and see you tomorrow, is it's going to be a great Sunday for Honk, for sure, like going back to like your roots.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be a good day for Milan and Strong as well. But I will leave it there for you. We'll see you tomorrow. Congrats again for qualifying and also going through the upper bracket. We'll see who your opponent is going to be tomorrow, but also who's going to qualify today. So thanks again, Salah.
Thank you.
And we get ourselves down to one more series for today. We are about